11 o'clock hour BPR. We'll start the show with political commentator and former Meet the Press host Chuck Todd for his take on ABC's firing of Jimmy Kimmel and yet another effort to placate Trump, plus his thoughts on that explosive hearing yesterday with the former head of the CDC and the one the day before with Kash Patel.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we'll open the phone and text lines to get your reactions to ABC suspending Jimmy Kimmel's late night show indefinitely. Another example of how the media is bowing to Trump. What's this political weaponization of the FCC really mean for free speech everywhere? Call or text next. It's the 11 o'clock hour, BPR, GBH, and NEPM.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Kristen Wright. President Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer held a wide-ranging press conference at Starmer's country residence near London a short time ago. They stressed that the U.S. and the U.K. are working together to bring an end to conflicts. They discussed the Russia-Ukraine war. Trump said he's disappointed that Russian President Vladimir Putin has not committed to peace.
He's let me down. He's really let me down. It was going to be Russia and Ukraine. But we'll see how that turns out. But that turned out to be, I thought it might be among the easiest of the group. But we had settled just about every conflict. And as you know, we're working very hard on Israel and Gaza. All that's happening over there. Complex, but it's going to get done. It'll all get done right. And likewise, Russia.
In Gaza, Trump said he wants all hostages released now. Starmer has said his government will recognize a Palestinian state sometime this month unless Israel commits to peace. Trump says he disagrees with this approach. He's wrapping up a 2-day state visit to the UK. The Justice Department is escalating demands for election data from states. DOJ is suing 2 Democratic-led states, seeking to force them to hand over their full registration lists. NPR's Miles Parks has more.
The Department of Justice has asked for sensitive elections data from many states, but Maine and Oregon are the first states to be sued over the matter. The department says it needs the data to determine if the 2 states are following federal election laws when it comes to keeping accurate registration lists. But states have constitutional authority to run their own elections, and voting officials on both sides of the aisle have fought previous efforts to acquire the data DOJ is asking for, which includes partial Social Security numbers. One reason is security risks. Another is that the Trump administration has not been clear on what it plans to do with the data. Miles Parks, NPR News, Washington.
A vigil will be held in Colorado tonight for conservative activist Charlie Kirk. His supporters will gather at Colorado State University. Kirk founded Turning Point USA, a group that rallies young conservatives. Kirk was scheduled to speak at Colorado State tonight as part of his American Comeback Tour, where he planned to visit college campuses across the country. Kirk was shot while speaking at Utah Valley University last week. University President Astrid Jimenez addressed students yesterday.
It is a very difficult time, and I really want you to understand that the feelings of hurt are real.
Kirk's widow announced the American Comeback Tour will continue. An immigration judge in Louisiana is ordering Mahmoud Khalil to be deported to Syria or Algeria. The judge says the activist, a former Columbia University grad student, misrepresented information on his green card application. Khalil spent months in jail this year after being detained by immigration authorities in March. This is NPR News.
Good morning with the latest from the GBH Newsroom. I'm Henry Santoro. Don't look now, but today is Massachusetts Day at the Big E in West Springfield, the day when nearly 40 vendors and exhibitors showcase the Bay State's most well-known foods and products. Foods like lobster rolls, clam chowder, Boston cream pie, and homemade chocolates also on hand are signature Massachusetts products like candles, soaps, and handmade baseball bats. Who knew? Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, and Secretary of the Commonwealth Bill Galvin are all scheduled to attend Massachusetts Day today. Tomorrow is New Hampshire Day, and Saturday is Vermont Day at the Big E. Connecticut's top energy officials says federal rollbacks to offshore wind are putting a damper on energy investments across the Northeast. Katie Dykes is with Connecticut's Department of Energy Environmental Protection.
My phone's been ringing from folks that build power plants of all types who are concerned about the chilling effect this has on investment. If you can no longer count on being able to move forward a project when you have all of your permits in hand.
The Trump administration recently halted work on Revolution Wind, a massive offshore wind project that was 80% complete. The project was set to power hundreds of thousands of homes. State officials are suing the federal government over the stop work order. Dyke says if that order isn't rescinded, ratepayers could be responsible for $500 million in price increases due to generation supply issues. In sports, Red Sox A's wrap up their series this afternoon at Fenway. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Visit St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, where visitors can unwind on white sand beaches and dine at restaurants. More at visitspc.com. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
He's Tim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Going to be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. That's Friday. The mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, will be with us September 23rd at the library, and the governor, Maura Healey, will be with us September 30th, also at the library. Hello, Jim.
You forgot to mention the nephew of RFK Jr. will also be with us at the library tomorrow, Joseph Kennedy III. Not just to talk about his uncle, but some wonderful project he's engaged in. Here now via Zoom, political analyst Chuck Todd. Chuck's former moderator of NBC's Meet the Press, host of a brand new show, Sunday Night with Chuck Todd, on the platform Newsphere, NOOsphere. He also hosted the Chuck Toddcast. You can find it at thechucktoddcast.com or youtube.com/@thechucktoddcast. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Chuck. We're going to start by playing a little clip from Jimmy Kimmel's show on Monday night. That was in the monologue that referenced Charlie Kirk's death. Here it is.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
People may know that ABC suspended Kimmel's late night show supposedly after those remarks, but there's been a long list of threats to get rid of Jimmy Kimmel before this coming from the president. So what do you think?
Well, I want to separate the items because I thought what the premise of Jimmy Kimmel's line, whether that was a joke or whatever, I think is, I can't stand this premise of this debate of whose side is more violent, right? This is just an unwinnable argument, and it doesn't do anything to turn the temperature down. So I sit there and say, I don't like the premise he accepted, but I say that as a criticism of his remark. It has nothing to do, and what I don't get is how this became an FCC issue, right? Like, this is where, look, I don't watch the late night shows. I haven't watched them. I see clips every once in a while. I haven't watched them in a long time. When this whole thing came up, I thought, man, why did Jimmy Kimmel do a Charlie Kirk joke? That seemed really stupid and inappropriate. Then you listen to what he said, and you're like, wait, what? Like, again, I don't agree with the premise he accepted. I think it's a stupid premise to sit here and try to debate who's got the more, who's, radicalizing people worse, the left or the right, to commit political violence. This is a problem, hard stop. There's problems on the left, there's problems on the right. Big tech companies are the ones that are arguably most at fault at creating the political environment we're in. But what Brendan Carr, to me, the more outrageous statement came from Brendan Carr with the
head of the FCC.
Yeah, the head of the FCC when he decided this was an issue. And he decided to lean on Nexstar, which has to get FCC approval for its big merger with Tegna, this giant holding company. These are two giant holding companies that own a bunch of local TV affiliates. And then, of course, ESPN and the NFL Network are trying to do a merger, which also will have to get FCC approval. So he used the power of government to essentially coerce Nexstar and Disney to get rid of somebody Donald Trump doesn't like and Jimmy Kimmel. And that's where you're like, whoa, this is why there has been outrage, mostly on the left and in the middle, with even some on the right who actually do have principles about free speech going, whoa, 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 right? This is cancel culture in reverse.
Yeah, the FCC is not supposed to regulate speech.
Correct. They're in the decency game. If Jimmy Kimmel dropped trowel.
Exactly.
Okay? While telling that joke, the act, right? This goes back to the famous Super Bowl halftime show Janet Jackson incident, right? That is the terrain of the FCC, okay? It's called, decency. Perhaps if he'd used the words that George Carlin told us you couldn't say on television.
Right.
The seven infamous words. Again, that is where the role of the FCC goes. And so by doing this, it becomes, this is why there is outrage. And look, the entire right-wing ecosystem that is celebrating this, that Trump has weaponized and put into and handed political power to, they're behaving the way they want to believe the left behaved, right? There's not evidence that the left behaved the way they're behaving, but they want to believe it, right? It's this projection mindset. So look, this is anger over Twitter and Facebook, dumping all of these people back during January 6th, right? This mostly goes back to that. I know some is saying it goes back sooner to that, but that was really the moment, right? Between that and the accusation that the government leaned on the social media networks regarding the Hunter Biden laptop. So this is the whole, well, two wrongs make a right governing philosophy that pretty much animates MAGA, right? We thought what you did to us was wrong, so we're going to do the exact same thing. Two wrongs make a right. That's the world they live in. And in some ways, two wrongs make the right, right? I would argue that is the new right, Trump right. That is their philosophy. And this is, I think this is why we're in the situation where we're in, where this is a really scary moment. I mean, you already have the big tech companies making it impossible to criticize them because they literally can sit on content that criticizes them, right? And where don't they control where you get your news and information? You now have the legacy TV networks that have the public spectrum. Even though the law's on their side, they're caving because they have their own business interests. I'll be honest, I'll make a plea to every corporate-owned entity that has a news division, just please sell it. You are destroying whatever remaining credibility is left for my friends and colleagues at these broadcast networks. You're making it worse. Just sell them. If you don't have the stomach to be owners of journalistic enterprises, get out. Okay? Let them go independent. Do us all a favor, but don't do what you're doing now.
Can I add a couple of things here? You mentioned the tech companies. You can't criticize them. These are the same people who talk about capitulation. We're sitting around Donald Trump the other day, and after little Zuckerberg is asked the question by Trump, and he pauses and goes, and gives him an answer, he leans over on a hot mic and say, hey, I didn't know what you were going to ask, so I didn't know what the right answer was. Was that okay? That's one. Two, this is the second capitulation by ABC Disney. We all know what they did the first time. And as we
George Stephanopoulos.
Exactly, and paid the whatever it was, $16 million. And the lesson from this, which I learned as a little boy from my mother, is when you give in to a bully, the bully knows they can come back and get more. So Trump has been saying since the day Colbert is fired that next is going to be Kimmel, and then we'll get Fallon, and we'll get Seth Meyers and that sort of thing. His little lapdog, Brendan Carr at the FCC, does what he does. Nexstar wants a merger, and we should have said Nexstar is the major, I think the biggest distributor of the Jimmy Kimmel
They're now
show.
the biggest distributor of all the networks.
And then right after that, Disney capitulates because, as you say, they want a deal. It is grotesque.
Well, I see this as much simpler than this.
Why?
I see this as the United States government, the United States of America, where you're supposed to be able to say what you want to say within limits, fire in a theater or the 7 bad words or something. This is the United States government saying we're going to censor and eliminate people whose speech the leader of the government doesn't like. This is what they do in China. This is what they do in Russia. This is what Viktor Orban has done in Hungary. That's what this is to me. It's very simple.
Yeah. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, right? It's a duck, right? This is exactly what's happening. If Jimmy Kimmel had mocked the left for trying so hard not to have be anywhere near the Charlie Kirk assassin, I don't think Brendan Carr says a word. He says, "Oh, that's great comedy."
Yeah.
And by the way, we should have one
right,
thing.
If he had gone down his other conspiracy theory, but it was one that made the left look bad versus making the right look bad. Does Brendan Carr say a word? Now imagine the following scenario. This is where these guys really are morons, and meaning like they're sort of political morons. Brendan Carr he has all this leverage to do what he did. And he chose to say that he has the leverage.
Exactly right.
Which was just sort of stupid. Like you could have done all the same things. Picked up the phone to the CEO of Nexstar. Picked up the phone to the CEO of Disney and said, "Hey, buddy, look, we don't like this. We're not going to go public, but you need to do something about this." And then the rest of us would have been, I wonder if the SEC used leverage to force this issue. But we wouldn't know for sure. But the only reason this happened is because Dingleberry goes on. I think this is the guy that used to be known as Little Green Footballs.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's the same idiot, right? But, who's just a paranoid conspiracy theorist from the right and has been and is now a mainstream right-wing vehicle because the paranoid conspiracy theorists are in charge of the party right now. And so he goes on there. I mean, I will say this. I don't. This is, I think the rational middle sits there and goes, wait a minute, cancel culture's back, right? Like, I thought you guys didn't like cancel culture. And so this is bad politics.
Yeah.
I really believe it long term. So
but he made the boss happy. Don't you think he did what you consider bad politics? Because when you do those kinds of behaviors publicly, it makes the boss, Donald Trump, happy.
I agree. He sees short-term gain. Can
I say one more thing for context here that I think matters? This notion that this was the phrase that caused the guy
he's been
to be
talking
suspended.
about it for weeks.
Right, they were waiting for an opportunity to go after the guy. And Kimmel, a day or so before, had tweeted a really warm concern and empathy for the Kirk family and other shooting victims and that sort. So this is not a guy who's been callous about Kirk throughout this deal at all. But the thing that worries me most, and we're going to talk to our listeners about this in about 15 minutes. I'm worried the vast majority of people don't care about what happened to Kimmel. And by the way, this has nothing to do with whether you're a fan of Jimmy Kimmel or not. Do you think the average American cares about this story?
So it's an interesting. So I spent yesterday listening. I was observing a focus group of voters in Michigan who voted Biden in 20 and Trump 2024. Right. So these are supposed swing voters, and it reinforced what I was already thinking about what the average voter is seeing here. Because I'm with you on this. I think this is a debate that fires up the journalistic elites, like ourselves, okay? Because we live in this space, right? This is sort of, and it should fire us up, right? If this doesn't fire you up, why are you a journalist, right? Why are you in this space? But I do think the average person, this is always why was the democracy message the wrong message to talk to swing voters with, or are swing voters more worried about their own lives? Right? What impacts their life right now? Yes, they're worried about they're not unworried about the democracy, but paying the mortgage or paying the rent is a priority right now. And what was interesting about this focus group is it made me realize that as stories like this are breaking through. So there was one of them who said, "Look, I don't like all this power he's accumulating. It does feel like he wants to become a dictator," right? He said the word dictator, goes all this or that. Then the moderator of the focus group says, "So, if you could vote if you could do your vote over, how would you vote? He goes, oh, I'd still vote for Trump. I just didn't think the Democrats knew what they were doing in the economy. I didn't like this. And he goes, I don't like what he's been doing with the National Guard, but I am glad he's focusing on the cities. And it was one of these ways, like there was nothing but criticism of his tactics, but there was not criticism of what he was trying to accomplish, right? So
they buy the story that it's about crime, in other words.
Correct. And so I think that, here's the way I would put it. I think these stories matter after they see this economy not working for them, right? But the economy is still first and foremost, right? If their quality of life goes down, then all of a sudden all these other things are going to bother them too, right? And I think this was sort of the mistake that the Democrats didn't fully appreciate in 2024 is these swing voters felt like their quality of life got worse under Biden. Now, whether that was due to COVID, all this, we can, I'm not getting it. That's the, perception is reality when you get to the ballot box. And I think that's what you see in this focus group that so far, like one guy said, I don't like these tariffs, but they haven't been as bad as I thought. And you're sitting there going, that's how these folks are processing this. So none of this helps Trump. And it all is sort of, I do think it's like a river, right? It erodes the bank every day, but you don't really notice it if you look at the riverbank every day. But if you, don't look at it for 2 years, you go, oh my God, boy, the shoreline's really changed. I missed that, right? And that's where I think this does have accumulated impact negatively towards the right on this. But it isn't a first and foremost issue because Jimmy Kimmel's not putting money in their bank accounts or food on their table.
We're talking to Chuck Todd.
Yeah, the Chuck Toddcast. Chuck, you gave a very moving monologue after Charlie Kirk's death. You also talked about the impact of social media algorithms on. Jim and I had a debate about this yesterday on the minds, the brains of Americans. What'd you say?
So what we've done here is, and we all know this happens, right? When you have the conversation with people who go, oh, you're right? Which is, what the social media companies have done is with these algorithms, they've sort of created an efficiency. But sometimes efficiencies paint a weird picture, right? So the efficiency is what? Well, they've narrowed down, so they only want to make sure they have things that interest you. Okay, then it becomes things that agree with you, right? Then it becomes things that engage you. And then it turns out that, if I can take an excerpt of what somebody says, it can have all the context in the world around it, but if nobody sees the context and you only see this, right, it just weaponizes. And so basically, I'm going to quote, of all people, the Speaker of the House, who on Sunday sort of took a step from being a partisan for a minute or two and noted, he says, every policy disagreement can't end with one side calling somebody the enemy of the state and the other side calling them a fascist, right? Like but the way social media works is it concentrates the stuff you see because the business model is keeping you on the platform. And we know that, outrage and rage and anxiety keeps you looking for more, right? When the weather is frightening, people turn on the Weather Channel. When the weather is sunny, you turn it off, right? When things are going great, you leave social media, right? When things are not going great, you're constantly looking for more information. You go on there and it's nothing but agitation. And these algorithms have just created a warped perception of each political ideological world, okay? And they've painted, people on the right really think the Democrats are crazy socialists, and people on the left really think pretty much any Trump supporter is a fascist. That's why we're at where we're at. And this is why I hold the social media companies more responsible for this. Yes, politicians and people, we all control our speech, but they've weaponized our speech. They've taken our words and warped them and weaponized them against us and using it to profit off of us. That's the rage I have about this.
And
right?
they don't have to do that. Yeah, they don't have to.
They've destroyed moderation,
Yeah.
and we don't have much control over it at all.
Unfortunately.
Well, we only have a minute left. Marjorie and I had a little bit of a debate yesterday about whether or not these companies will ever do anything about it. We mentioned that, 10 years ago, Zuckerberg said, I'm going to hire 10,000 people to monitor this thing. Now I've given up on that and kind of thing.
They could do something.
I don't think public demand will get them anywhere because they're giving the public exactly what they want.
We need some trial lawyers. I mean, I think Section 230 is null and void. Once you create an algorithm to curate information, you're a publisher. You have no more protection. The comments, you're not a neutral arbiter. You're not just a platform order. I just own the platform. I can't control what's said on it.
Yeah.
The minute you decide, what to put on the front page and what to put on the back page, you've become a publisher. Section 230 doesn't apply. Where are the trial lawyers? Now, you know why they don't do this? Because these big tech companies that control all of this have so much money that they're impossible. Like you can't, they've bought off Washington. They have bought off everybody here. I think that this is the problem. And we are powerless because they have saturated Washington with money. Look, they're in the middle of enriching the Trump family. In various ways. I mean, what the Allisons are doing in essentially gobbling up as much of the media space as they can gobble up while they have a friendly regulatory environment, that's, that will lead to, probably decades of that kind of ideological control over a big chunk of what people see. I think ultimately markets will, undermine that, and they'll regret doing what they've done. It'll end up being bad business to be political. They've chosen. Here's the irony.
We got to go.
Chuck, we're out of time.
They've chosen to be political when the whole point was to be apolitical.
Thank you, Chuck Todd.
We didn't even have a chance to get going, but anyway.
Bye, guys.
See you next week.
Thank you so much. Chuck Todd is the host of the Chuck Toddcast. We're going to be right back. We're going to open up the lines to get your thoughts on the Jimmy Kimmel being off the air. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, Richard Smith. For more than 25 years, he spent his days in the 19th century, portraying Henry David Thoreau. Now he's hanging up his waistcoat and straw hat. He joins us to reflect on living as one of New England's most enduring thinkers. Plus, the story behind the 1,000 glass pumpkins that sprout up on the MIT campus every year. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And American Repertory Theater with Passengers, a blend of cirque, music, dance, and superhuman skill. The New York Times writes, extraordinary acrobatics provide gasps of delight. amrep.org. And the Museum of Printing in Haverhill, preserving the history of graphic communication from typewriters and presses to computers and copiers. Their expanded exhibit of rare and historic Bibles is now on view. More at museumofprinting.org.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow with Live Music Friday. Former Congressman Joe Kennedy III. 23rd, the Mayor Wu, will join us at the library. 30th, the Governor joins us at the library. We're going to continue our conversation about ABC Disney's decision to pull Kimmel off the air indefinitely after pressure from Trump and his FCC, ostensibly over the comments about Charlie Kirk aftermath. FCC Chair Brendan Carr, we talked about, took to a conservative podcast to say Kimmel's remarks were part of a concerted effort to lie to the American people. Then all the dominoes started falling. And by the way, if you're watching CNN last night, their media person, when he texted the head of the FCC to ask his comment on this, the head of the FCC of the United States texts back a GIF of The Office.
Yeah.
With Dwight and what's
Michael.
his name? Michael cheering with high five kinds of things. Really professional. So the lines are open at 877-301-8970. Cars essentially arguing. Marjorie said this. Comedians, satirists, anybody who disagrees with Donald Trump can face sanctions and censure.
You cannot
from the federal
criticize
government.
this government,
You can't.
is
And
what
when-
this says to me.
I agree with you. And when the federal government starts pressuring these private companies, non-governmental organizations, especially news outlets, that is a real First Amendment threat. Do you care about this? Do you care about this state of free speech and this government trying to crush it in many avenues? At 877-301-8970. Can I say one thing here?
Sure.
No, I mentioned this before the air. I think listeners know we're both big fans of CNN. However,
they're in trouble too because there's a merger that may impact them.
I know that.
Same big company could own them that owns CBS.
The CNN entertainment reporter is part of this discussion. I don't remember her name, and my apologies. And generally, she's good. And the anchor, whoever it was last night, says to their reporter, so what do you think happens with the Kimmel thing? Do you think he gets back on? And here's her answer. This is a reporter at CNN. It's really hard to imagine Donald Trump saying it's okay for Jimmy Kimmel to come back on the air. Think about that for a minute. The reporter is saying Trump will decide if Kimmel is allowed to return and speak his mind freely.
Well, maybe
on
she's just
ABC.
getting with the program, Jim.
Wow.
Because it is sort of whether Trump wants him back or not.
Do you think people care about this?
I think so. I think
hope
so.
you're right.
I mean,
I really
I
hope
think
you're
that, he's a pretty big draw. I don't know how many people watch that show, but, between him, Colbert, who's going to be on until May, and Trump is now talking about going after Fallon and Seth, Meyers on NBC. So I think people do notice. But the bigger thing, I think I just want to mention this really quickly, is that billionaires who are very friendly to Trump, as Axios put it so well this morning, are consolidating control over American media. And they're doing it not for the good of the American people because they want to get their mergers through. As Chuck mentioned, Disney wants this merger so ESPN can acquire the NFL, and this Nexstar that ran these local affiliates wants to take out its rival. And that has to be approved by the FCC, so they don't want to annoy the FCC. I mean, that's basically what's going on here.
First on BPR, on GBH and NEPM. Hi.
Hi, first-time caller.
Thank
Pleasure.
you. We're thrilled to have you.
The Jimmy Kimmel situation is just a joke. He didn't say anything offensive at all. What I'm really calling about is President Trump's comments this afternoon in the UK with the Prime Minister and how he was just giving all sorts of accolades over this guy who was assassinated. And he would never do that to any other person who's assassinated in this country. So seriously, what the hell?
Well, Mindy, we don't have time now in this segment, but I hope you'll stick around. He was asked by a reporter, and this is part of the Kimmel monologue that night, how he was doing after the execution of Charlie Kirk. And we'll play that for you right after the break. So stick around, and it shows how deep his mourning is for his good buddy. Thank you.
And the thing is, even if it were in bad taste, some people might think it's in bad taste. Some people think he shouldn't have said it. That's not the issue. That is not the issue. The issue is the government suppressing speech.
Right.
We're supposed to be free in the United States.
And by the way,
to express our opinions.
It's a private company. If the company decided to take action against them on their own,
that's different.
That's one thing. That wasn't on their own. It was, again, because of the chain. Trump, Brendan Carr at the FCC, Nexstar saying we're going to not carry this show for a while, and then it percolates up. Patty and JP, hey.
Hi, I've watched Jimmy Kimmel almost since he was first on television, and I found what happened last night. When I tuned in, I was shocked. I mean, I had it on earlier, and I had seen it, and I was brought up to believe that I had rights under the Constitution to many things, including freedom of speech, and I had many relatives back almost to the beginning of the country that fought so that I would have freedom of speech. And what Donald Trump is doing is taking it away from us, and it's really appalling that he should do that. the whole thing is really just very, very upsetting. So,
Patty, we appreciate your thoughts. You know, there was one of the analysts on CNN last night said the free speech warriors have become the cancel culture fans, which is totally true. These are the same people who were like complaining about how there wasn't free speech, and when it's being exercised, and as you say, and Donald Trump doesn't like it, shut it down.
And cancel culture was more about people like canceling some actor that did something or canceling some professor that did something. It wasn't. What are you laughing at?
Kelly text, breaking news, Food Network announces they will only run shows that cook Trump's favorite dishes. All other shows are canceled.
Well, it's kind of like that's what's coming.
Well done steak only, right?
I wonder how long Seth Meyers and Fallon will last under this situation.
Well, I assume they watch them, and when we have something that ostensibly is a cause for action, that'll be the end. And by the way, I hope you're right, and I hope people do care.
Okay, we're going to keep taking your calls and texts until the top of the hour. I'm Margie Regan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NAPM and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. By the way, this is what Jimmy Kimmel said initially after the killing of Charlie Kirk. Instead of the angry finger pointing, can we just for one day agree that it is horrible and monstrous to shoot another human being? On behalf of my family, we send love to the Kirks and to all the children, parents, and innocents who fall victim to senseless gun violence. I mean, that was certainly not a horrific statement aimed at Charlie Kirk or Charlie Kirk's family. Anyway, you're listening to BPR, GBH, and NAPM. Quick break, right back.
China, people like this guy really love their durian fruit. It is pungent, spiky, and big as a volleyball.
He says a chilled durian, that's like ice cream in your mouth. So good.
Now sellers just have to find enough to meet demand. Next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Cambridge School of Culinary Arts in Porter Square, offering private cooking events for your next team building activity, family reunion, birthday party, or night out. You can learn more at cambridgeculinary.com. And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer, the Unclaimed Property Division, is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NAPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browder. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow. Live Music Friday. Meredith Goldstein from the Globe. Joe Kennedy III, former congressman, about a wonderful project he's involved in, and about his uncle, RFK Jr. You know, a number of you are texting, asking if the clip we played a minute ago for Chuck, the one in which Jimmy Kimmel on Monday night said the MAGA gang is desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Kirk as anything other than one of them, if that was it, or was the following part of the monologue seconds later where he was mocking Donald Trump's grieving process over Kirk's death. The first voice you'll hear is Kimmel, and then a reporter asking a question of Trump. This will make sense. Here it is.
But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
I'll tell you, that was not only funny, it was, in my opinion, right on. 877-301-8970. We're asking your reaction to the indefinite suspension by Disney/ABC of Jimmy Kimmel yesterday. Nick, you're on Long Island. Welcome. Hi.
Hi. I've never felt more ashamed to be an American. Donald Trump is a maniac. He's like the iceberg, and we're on the Titanic, and we're taking on more water each day. And I think this country is going to sink before the midterms get here. Man's a lunatic.
Do you think we asked Chuck Todd this question, and we obviously know how much you care. Do you think your average fellow American cares about this like you do?
No. I think, unfortunately, Chuck Todd is correct, and people only care about their pocketbook. I understand money is important, obviously, but Donald Trump is insane. He's a lunatic, and he's not mentally fit, and he's also a crook. He's lining his pockets every day, looking for new schemes to make his family richer, and he's a very cruel, vindictive person, and it's a tragedy and a travesty that this maniac was elected by over 70 million people. I'm really ashamed to be an American right now.
Nick, call us again. Thanks for your call, Nick from Long Island.
I understand people's concern about the economy. I make a good living. I'm not worried about the price of butter every day. But, you have to say to yourself, thank God that the people who revolted against the British were not just worried about their economy. People who launched the civil rights movement, a lot of poor people, poor African Americans, they launched their protests over and they weren't making in big bucks. Thank God movements in this country, whether it was women's rights or gay rights or civil rights, weren't stymied in the grave because butter was too expensive.
Well, we're a passive people. I say it all the time. Right now, we're passive people.
Not all of us.
No, I agree. Well, I'm not saying everybody. As a people, we are passive, and we will let virtually anything be done to us. And then once a month, some people go to a rally, and they're wonderful, and then we move on.
And the irony is that the people that push the things that would help the economy are not the people, and obviously we've seen this in the second Trump incarnation, who are getting help with inflation and living costs.
Lisa in Enfield, Connecticut. Hello there.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to say, I don't think probably a lot of people do understand what Jimmy Kimmel taking off the air really does mean. I think a lot of people might hear about it and say, oh, whatever. But I think I think if more people understood if it was put out there. I know so many people, so many friends who are just so burnt out on the news, and they're just like, I can't keep watching it. It makes me nuts, whatever. And I understand, but I think it really needs to get out there what this truly means. And I don't know the answer to that, but I hope someone will figure it out.
Well, I think, Lisa, let me just say, I think Marjorie said it concisely when she responded to Chuck and me both and said it's quite simple. If you have a high profile and you say something that displeases the President of the United States, they will do whatever they can to shut your speech down. I mean, that is the bottom line.
And it's not just high profile. I mean, we talked this morning about the checklist that people are going through social media now, looking for anyone who had anything disparaging to say.
On social media about Charlie Kirk.
About Charlie Kirk.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's high profile people, and it's people that are just posting on social media. They are going to be hunted down, as Stephen Miller sort of put it when he was talking with J.D. Vance on Charlie Kirk's podcast. They're going to go after people who had anything disparaging to say about Charlie Kirk.
Lisa, thanks for your call. Do you think that people, getting back to Lisa's point about, explaining this to the American people, do you think they're concerned that the news sources that most of us relied upon in a deep and trusting way can't be trusted? ABC now capitulating twice. CBS, arguably the most respected. The Washington Post, which still does wonderful things, but Bezos killing editorials.
Have capitulated.
And the other day, and the hiring. I reread Karen Tia's comments. She was the only full-time black editorial op-ed writer who was fired the other day. And I'll tell you, I looked at it as openly and fairly as I could. I cannot believe this woman was fired for what she had to say. They were very strong opinions, but it is amazing that. And does that trouble anybody? And by the way, the issue again, it doesn't matter whether you agree with Karen Athea or Jimmy Kimmel or 60 Minutes and how they interviewed Kamala Harris. The issue is that they're shutting down speech by threatening the business interests of these companies.
Of this whole country.
It is.
That you are entitled to criticize the government in the United States.
Isn't that one of the first things you learn about the Constitution? When you were a little kid in school, wasn't that the first thing you were told about the Constitution? What's in the First Amendment? And so he said, it's in our ear, it's literally the first one. It's the First Amendment.
I don't know.
Thank you,
but
Zoe.
it's just something that I thought it's one of the things that has made us unique is free speech, and it's really scary. It's the government shutting it down. Can
I say one last thing? This clip we just played of Trump being asked, how you handling your good friend was killed. I assumed that was edited at first because it was so unbelievable. He literally says, I'm holding up okay, and without taking a breath, points to the trucks outside the White House and how well the construction is going that no president in the past 150 years was able to do. Roy in Belmont, welcome to the show.
By the way, I don't know that any president in the last 150 years was trying to make a parking lot out of the Rose Garden or making a ballroom out of the Rose Garden.
Well, if Trump said it, you don't think it's true?
No, I don't think
Roy
it's true.
in Belmont, hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Great. I sent you a text, but I think that we have here is a government that is not following its own rules. We're becoming a lawless country. And if you look at the Section 326 of the Communications Act, 47 U.S.C. 326, the FCC is not allowed to censor.
Exactly.
Marjorie said that to Chuck Todd.
The FCC is prohibited by law from employing the power of censorship or interfering with the right of free speech. There is a very narrow news distortion, I love this one, in which a broadcast news outlet knowingly airing false reports can be criticized and critiqued by the FCC. Interestingly enough, we did have a broadcast news outlet, that was Fox News, which was knowingly issuing false reports about an election being stolen. Did the FCC come in and shut them down?
No, but the courts did a pretty good job there, don't you think?
Well, the courts made him pay $1 billion. But again, that was a court case. So you're absolutely right.
Roy.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for bringing up the point. 877-301-8970. But as our colleague Jamie says, when has the administration cared what the law has to say?
Well, we talked about due process. That's out the window now.
Yeah.
We've all seen.
Yeah, you're talking about in terms of ICE and snatching people.
Snatching even American citizens.
Yeah.
I mean, it is amazing how fast this guy has done this. You know what Maria Ressa said it was going to be by the summer, and it's September now, so she was right when she talked about the big hero of the Philippines who stood up to the government there and was facing 100 years in jail. She said we had to the summer, and I think she was right.
Hey, John. John in Westford is next. John, thanks for your call. Good to talk to you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like we're overthinking this. I mean, the show was running in the red. It was bleeding revenue. Jimmy Kimmel's making $20 million a year. Advertisers were pulling out left and right even before this.
They were? Which advertisers were pulling out left and right?
I don't know the names, but I can get them to you.
That would be good.
Definitely, viewership was an all-time low. Syndicates dropped it after he said that. And then you're on the verge of this big merger, and you have what could be viewed as a loose cannon. That claim was ridiculous.
John, you have your chronology wrong. If I may correct you, then you can continue. When you said syndicates dropped it after Brendan Carr from the FCC went on that conservative podcast and criticized it. And the FCC is the entity which needs to approve the Nexstar merger. And that's when Nexstar decided to indefinitely suspend the airing of the show. So that order, that chronology is huge. It was because they knew they couldn't upset the head of the FCC that they acted. I mean, and with all due respect, John, and you're actually a good and regular caller, the chronology belies the notion that this had anything to do with finance. It was all to do with pleasing the Trump administration to get a merger approved.
But you really, hold on, John, I just want to ask, you really think this was about viewership and money?
I really do. I mean, no, it is more than that, too. The ratings were an all-time low, and you're isolating half of the country with politics late at night when people... I think all of late-night TV is dropping away, and that's shown. And people want, before they go to bed, it would be nice to have a little comedy. And then, I mean, if you lean on the left, of course, that comedy's fine. You can fall asleep to it. But just like Marjorie, you said earlier, like, the FCC can give warnings on false reports, and that's what this was. They weren't sanctioning.
There was not.
It was a warning, and it was definitely a false report. I mean, the guy...
Okay, we got it. John, we appreciate your point of view as always. Thank you, John.
Just a little Google search. They get about 1.1 million viewers per episode. Jimmy Kimmel's his viewership varies, but ranks among late night's top shows when competing with The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. So they're all not what they were when Johnny Carson was the only.
But that's not let's assume that everything John is saying is factually accurate.
Strongly in the 18 to 49 demographic and benefits greatly from online viewership, particularly after major news events. I don't know. We didn't see anything about advertisers fleeing in great numbers.
Well, but by the way, if John's right, he was right 2 days ago. Nothing happened 4 days ago. Yesterday was the day that Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC with great power, spoke, and within hours the show was indefinitely suspended.
And President Trump has repeatedly said he wants to get rid of Kimmel.
Yeah.
I mean, he said that after Colbert, to get rid of Colbert.
He posted on Truth Social that Kimmel was next. Horrible ratings, horrible show. Mary Ellen in Haverhill, hi.
Hi, good morning. I think, and I'm very concerned, that what's going to be next? Saturday Night Live?
That's a very good question.
This is entertainment.
Very good question.
It's
Could
entertainment. If you don't like it, switch the channel.
You know, Mary Ellen, don't go away. Is NBC, we know CBS has bent the knee. We know ABC's now done it twice. Is NBC bought into the kowtowing to Trump thing?
Not that I know of.
Say that.
What?
Yeah, not that I know of either.
Nor I. Yeah.
The other thing is, can you imagine if Obama did this? A black president? Can you imagine? I mean, that would be unbelievable. Using someone's unfortunate assassination and the way it's going, it's really scary, especially, I'm a mother of 4 children. I'm worried. They're 30 to 40 years old. This is the world their children are going to grow up in.
I think about that all the time now, Mary Ellen. Thank you very much for the call. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, Nexstar runs about 200 stations, 39% of the national market, according to Vox. And Trump had repeatedly singled out Jimmy Kimmel after until May, but they're getting rid of his show. The president repeatedly said Kimmel was next. And both an FCC commissioner and reportedly ABC executive considered what Kimmel said well within bounds. That this all seems like a pretext because Brendan Carr wanted to make the president happy, and the billionaires that run these big companies didn't want to risk anything going awry with the FCC.
I just mentioned, has NBC done anything? And Zoe mentioned my ear. MSNBC fired Joy Reid, and there's a debate. Her ratings were declining, and that's obviously the argument made by MSNBC. Others don't agree. Here's a signed Truth Social post from Trump. Kimmel has capital letters 0 talent, worse ratings than Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth 2 total losers on Fallon. On fake news NBC, their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. President DJT. Can you imagine the President of the United States? I mean, the President of the United States posted that on Truth Social. It's just, and I hope there's some of you out there who love Trump, who hate all the shows he talked about, who say, that's just wrong. That's not what this country is. That's not the role of the leader of this country. It's abhorrent. I mean, God.
Well, you just look around. I mean, we don't have time to get into it, but look at that hearing yesterday. You got RFK Jr. telling people you're going to change the vaccine schedule for children. First of all,
after he promised during his confirmation hearing under oath that he would not change the vaccine schedule for children.
So people know, you can decide with your physician if you don't want to give your kid every single solitary vaccine at 2 months or 3 months or 4. You can prolong it. I know lots of people that have prolonged it, waited till the kid's a little bit older.
Well, as long as you don't run afoul of what the state mandate is vis-a-vis your kids in school.
Well, yeah, but your kid isn't going to go to school usually they're 4 or 5.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, a lot of people stretch it out. They don't want to do it maybe at 8 weeks old or something like that. A lot of people do that, and you're entitled to do that. But the idea that we have got RFK Jr., who I think has some serious problems, regulating the health of Americans, telling pregnant women they can't get COVID vaccines. I mean, all this stuff is just insane.
Well, I agree with you, but you got to be fair. At least we have Kash Patel as head of the FBI. And I would say what he proved the other day, and try to be fair here, Marjorie, what I think he proved the other day, he's got the right temperament for the job.
He does. Yep. Yeah, he was screaming and yelling, and the senators were screaming and yelling back at him. Oh, my God.
Also, we haven't had time for this, but I've been reading stories in the last 24 hours. To say that Cattell was a mistake machine, I mean, some may say lies. I don't think it was mostly lies. He had no idea what the answer was to 30% of the questions. Just factually inaccurate responses.
He mixed up the trial.
He said in a particular case, when the trial's over, we'll deal with that. Well, the guy who was responsible for the shooting is dead.
There won't be a trial.
Okay, Janet in...
Anonymous texter says, I feel like the only sane person in the asylum.
Janet's in a car. Hi, Janet. Quickly, welcome. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you mostly for the incredible grace with which you conduct your conversations between the two of you and with others.
Wow, thank you.
I would say, as a longtime activist, people can voice their opinions with their pocketbooks. If you disagree with what has happened, and heaven knows I do with everything, there's Disney Plus to get out of. There's Amazon to get out of. There's Whole Foods to get out of. There is a boycott coming if people are interested in the National Indivisible 1 Million Rising movement. The next large protest for No Kings 2 on October 18th.
Yep,
Yeah, I
Carol
hope
Rose
that-
talked about it yesterday.
Let's hope that's a big one,
Yeah.
Janet.
Keep going, Janet.
Well, it has to be, because the fascist researchers have told us we need 3.5% of our population, which is 11 to 12 million people. Last time we had about 5 million people. We need to double it.
By the way, we have tried to get that Harvard professor who is the author of the 3.5% thing. We have to try harder. I can't remember her name. She's terrific.
Although
We're
I've got
going to
to
work on
say,
it, Janet.
other people
Thanks.
have said
Janet, thank you.
now that's not necessarily holds as much water as it did because of social media.
Well, let's hear what she has to say. Let's hear what her thesis is. Janet, thank you very
That's
much.
a 3.5%
for the call.
of in a protest can eventually overthrow a government. It's happened in other
Wilson,
countries.
you have a minute. Thank you very much for your call.
Sure. Good morning.
And to you.
I hate to be the guy to say this, but ultimately the freedom of speech thing that comes down, sure, Trump is doing all this stuff, but I've noticed Israel being a major part of the freedom of speech, and it's poured right down to Trump, right down to everything else. And the second we start saying this, I'm just saying that, that's part of the problem, too.
Wilson, I have to be honest. Neither of us know what you're talking about, but thank you. We're running out of time here.
Yeah.
We'll try it another day.
Unless he was talking about criticism of Israel is maybe becoming difficult. Many people get very upset
We only
about
cut you
that.
off, Wilson, because we are out of time
Yeah,
for this
okay.
Discussion. Call us again, please.
Anyway, we say goodbye to the folks listening up in NEPM. I feel like it's our second home now. We're up there in that gorgeous studio, that beautiful building for 2 days.
And some very
eating our
fine
way.
and
Oh, by the way, I
talented
think we
people.
have is our Big E performance up yet? Online?
Oh, by the way, if you go, I'm so glad you say that.
Yep.
Our fabulous colleague, Lexi Cohen, incredibly sadly is leaving on Friday. She edited a little video that we did. It is now on TikTok of our trip to the Big E. Go to our TikTok page at Boston let people see for themselves at Boston Public Radio. It's
Jim
fabulous.
eating a lot.
Maybe it is.
Okay, we say goodbye to the folks at NEPM, but be sure to tune into the fabulous 413 starting at 3 this afternoon with Monty and Khalees, and what a great show they have. Our show continues here in Boston. Coming up after the new news, 89.7 GBH, former Massachusetts Public Safety Secretary Andrea Cabral. Cannot wait to talk to her. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening, to BPR and GBH and NEPM, and streaming at youtube.com. Look at the hiccups /GBH News.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Andrew Gunn, Fashioning the World, a retrospective of the Singaporean fashion designer. You can learn more at PEM.org. An unlikely group of spies go behind enemy lines to turn the tide in America's fight for independence. Catch a new episode of Turn, Washington's Spies, tonight at 9 on GBH 44.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Braude, head on Hour 2 of VPR. We'll start the noon hour with former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral on growing security threats to our nation's judges and the Trump administration going after voting machines just 1 year ahead of the midterm.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then, in light of continued attacks on voting rights by the Trump administration, we'll revisit a recent conversation with presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin about the Voting Rights Act. Then State Auditor Diana DiZoglio joins us with an update on her continued attempts to audit the legislature. That's all next in the second hour of BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Major unions are joining some of the biggest names in entertainment and sounding the alarm about censorship in the wake of late-night host Jimmy Kimmel's indefinite suspension. Yesterday, Disney-owned ABC yanked Kimmel's late-night show from air after receiving backlash over his remarks about the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk last week. President Trump is applauding the latest move. NPR's Mandalit Del Barco has details.
Host Jimmy Kimmel had called Charlie Kirk's murder senseless. During his monologue on Monday, he said this.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That sparked a backlash by Kirk's supporters, the chair of the Federal Communications Commission, and ABC affiliates from Nexstar and Sinclair, who demanded Kimmel apologize to the Kirk family and donate to his group Turning Point USA. Many have denounced Kimmel's suspension as censorship. Mandalit Del Barco, NPR News.
Well, Kimmel came up during Trump's state visit in the UK today.
Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
Trump also had a lot appointment in Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump says Putin has let him down in failing to take steps to end its war with Ukraine. NPR's Tamara Keith reports on Trump's remarks during a joint press conference with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at Chequers.
For some time now, Trump has been warning of stern consequences for Putin if he doesn't end the war. But at the press conference, Trump was non-committal when asked about actually imposing those consequences.
It doesn't affect the United States. And it doesn't so much affect you. Of course, you are a lot closer to the scene than we are. We have a whole ocean separating us.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer jumped in.
We have to put extra pressure on Putin. And it's only when the president has put pressure on Putin that he's actually shown any inclination to move. So we have to ramp that pressure up.
Starmer said the UK and France are willing to take the lead. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
Starbucks employees in 3 states are suing their employer over the company's new dress code. They say Starbucks failed to reimburse them for the expense of having to buy new clothes. Starbucks says it wants the employees' green aprons to stand out. The new dress code keeps clothing colors and materials largely to black, khaki, and denim. Certain tattoos and facial piercings are also restricted. U.S. stocks are trading higher this hour. The Dow is up 88 points at 46,107. The S&P has gained 36 points, and the Nasdaq is up more than 200 points. It's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Harvard Athletics has removed policies protecting transgender athletes from this year's student-athlete handbook. The move follows a series of orders by the Trump administration and the university's own research into public messaging on race and gender. The handbook, which is released at the beginning of every school year, contains regulations and resources for athletes across the college's 42 teams. Previous editions of that handbook spelled out protections allowing transgender students access to facilities such as restrooms or locker rooms aligned with their gender identity. Those protections no longer exist in this year's handbook. And while inventory is steadily increasing, a lack of housing continues to be a barrier for home buyers across Massachusetts. Real estate tracking firm The Warren Group says the monthly supply of condos increased by 13% from last year, causing median sale prices to decline. However, in June, median sale prices for single-family homes jumped 3.6% from 2024. The Warren Group's Cassidy Norton says there are few people selling single-family homes because they bought them when interest rates were low.
And so now they've got mortgages that have lower interest rates than are currently being offered by the market. So if they don't have to buy another house, that will come with probably a more expensive interest rate, which will mean then they're not tending to.
So far this year, sales of single-family homes dropped by about 4% as compared to September 2023. 70 degrees in Boston, cloudy sky. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive, with small business insurance for protecting a variety of business types with multiple coverage options, designed to fit business owners' needs. More about small business insurance is at progressivecommercial.com.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow with Live Music Friday. We're going to be joined at the library September 23rd by Mayor Michelle Wu and the 30th of September by Governor Maura Healey. Hello again, Jim.
Oh, I just want to mention, because we did so fast, if you want to see a 90-second, really moving portrayal, I think,
Very
of
moving.
our team's time at the Big E.
That's right.
The other day in Springfield. It's really quite lovely. Sadly, our departing colleague, Lexi Cohan, is behind
She
this.
did a great job.
Go to our TikTok page at Boston Public
That's right.
Radio and be prepared to weep. It's really lovely. Join now on Zoom. Rather humiliating for one of us.
Jim can really put it away. Let's
thank
say
you very
that.
much. Okay, Marjorie, let people decide for themselves. Joined now on Zoom by Andrea Cabral. She's a former Massachusetts Public Safety Secretary, former Sheriff of Suffolk County, and a BPR contributor. Hello there, Andrea.
Hello, Jim. Hello, Marjorie.
Hey.
Hi, Andrea. So we've spoken for about the last hour about getting callers and listeners and Chuck Todd's reactions to the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel, supposedly over things that he said, a joke he made about Charlie Kirk. What do you think about the whole thing?
Well, I'm starting with what joke did he make about Charlie Kirk? Everything that I've read, and maybe I missed something, his monologue was about the MAGA crowd trying to capitalize on Charlie Kirk's death.
Yeah, you're right.
I haven't read anywhere. So characterizing it in any headline as comments he made about Charlie Kirk is misleading, especially to someone or any reader who doesn't go beyond the headline. He was doing this is clear censorship by ABC. This is Jimmy Kimmel doing what late night hosts have done for decade after decade after decade, which is to mock power, people in power, specifically the President of the United States. There's a very long history of that. One of the reasons that stations like ABC and others have the protection of the First Amendment is to have the right to say things like that, among many other things. So I think, ABC has joined CBS and we call them legacy media, ABC, CBS, NBC. They joined CBS in demolishing whatever legacy they've had up to this point by doing this. And they also join the GOP majority in Congress, the SCOTUS, universities like Harvard, every single, and a number of state legislatures, every single group and institution that has capitulated and thus, helped to bring about the end of this democracy, they joined them today in censoring Jimmy Kimmel. He was talking, he got taken off the air because he said things about the president, not because he said anything about Charlie Kirk, his wife, his family, or anything untoward about the fact of his death. So let's be really clear about that. And no headline should say that he was removed for comments about Charlie Kirk. That's the narrative that has taken hold. That is not true.
I just want to add one thing, if you weren't listening in the first hour, to go even one step further. The only thing he said about Charlie Kirk and his family, to my knowledge, was we said in a tweet expressing outrage at the shooting and empathy for his family and those who lost him as a friend.
He said he called the shooting horrible and monstrous and said, on behalf of my family, we send love to the kids and to all the children, parents, and innocents who fall victim to senseless gun violence. And he was sending that off to the family of Charlie Kirk. So
Andrea, we're about the only people, I think, in the media who were concerned and have raised repeatedly the issue of the decision by the governor, Healy, to allow the state flag to remain at half-mast after 9/11 to follow the lead of the President of the United States. We asked you about it. We spoke to Maura Dolan, the governor's counselor, was the first person to criticize it. And when we were in Springfield, we asked former Governor Patrick, your former boss, and the current Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, about it. Here's what Patrick and Campbell had to say.
I think so. I mean, if that was a call from the president, I wouldn't be looking for some opportunity to disagree with the president or frankly be baited into that same old thing that every choice we make is partisan.
Here I get where the governor is. The statute requires that she lower the flag when the federal government lowers it. That is crystal clear. There's no interpretation on that. Yet I think at the same time, when you do something like that, then you have to offer an explanation publicly and why.
You've been thinking about this since we first talked to you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there, Andrea Cabral?
Well, when I criticized Governor Healy, I believe you asked me the question about it, and I said it should not have happened. She should not have done it. I apologize for that because I didn't know that the federal statute required states to follow. That was actually the law, and that's my fault. That's something I didn't think to look up, but that's not an excuse. I should have known that before I criticized the governor over that. So I take full responsibility for that. But on the other hand, I also agree with Attorney General Campbell that the lowering of the flag for Charlie Kirk probably did require some explanation. Not explanation about how the governor felt one way or the other about it being lowered on behalf of Charlie Kirk, but just an explanation that is what the law requires. That's just an educational explanation. And I think that would have been helpful. But I'm not excusing the fact that I didn't know that was what the law required.
By the way, I think we learned it, and I don't know if I'm speaking for Marjorie. I think our position was, and we're going to talk to the governor about it when she's here on the 30th at the library. I think our position would be, would it not have been wise in the circumstance to violate the federal law? What would you say to that?
Well, I think that it's easy enough to say that if you're not in the position of the governor.
I think you're probably right.
Because she has to think about that kind of a slippery slope, and it is a slippery slope, because once you do that, people will expect and require you to do it on other things with which they disagree with the federal government, and she has to walk a very, very careful line there.
Fair point. We're talking to Andrea Cabral.
So there's been a lot of concern in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk about threats to judges. Just a couple of them I want to mention. That a disgruntled lawyer murdered the son of U.S. District Judge Esther Salas in New Jersey in 2020. 2 years later, an armed man showed up outside Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's home to kill, he said, the justice. Justices have reported receiving pizzas to their homes, oftentimes ordered in the name of Salas's dead son. And just last week, just last week, prosecutors indicted a man for allegedly printing a 236-page manifesto at a public library in Minnesota entitled "How to Kill a Federal Judge." So there's been a lot of this going on. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that the concern over judicial security well predates what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Yep. And
much of, I won't say all, because there is a history here and there. I always think of Woody Harrelson's father, I think, still doing time, I think, in a federal prison for threatening a judge or trying to go after a judge. I believe Woody Harrelson, I think it was a judge.
Wow.
But there have been those kinds of cases, probably since time immemorial. Where it became, as I like to use the term steroidal, was when Trump started threatening judges with whom he disagreed. So the idea that we're sort of tying this to Charlie Kirk, as though this has been something that was spurred, this political rhetoric that is dangerous, that motivates supporters into doing this kind of thing, has suddenly had this burst of energy, as though it was something that came from the left. And I don't believe at all that the person that is accused of shooting Charlie Kirk sort of came from this leftist background. But in any event, the idea that this is the catalyst for this, when school children are targeted, judges are targeted, the Trump administration essentially targets, and Trump himself targets, anyone with whom he disagrees and says things that he knows his supporters. The insurrection, January 6th, says things that he knows his supporters act upon immediately and at his direction. That is why judges are upset. That is why judges need more money for security. The fact that more money has finally been allocated in the wake of Charlie Kirk's killing and murder doesn't change the fact that, this well predated this. So I have an issue with this notion that it's about Kirk and Kirk's death.
By the way, can I throw a little factoid in that you dropped? I just looked this up. Woody Harrelson's father, Charles, and I assume everybody knows who Woody Harrelson is, the great actor who, everybody knows who he is, was in jail because he was a contract killer and was convicted for the assassination of U.S. District Court Judge John H. Wood in 1979.
Yeah.
Harrelson's father...
Organized crime figure, they called him.
Was hired and paid by a drug dealer, this guy Jamil Chagra, to kill the judge because he was angry about his harsh sentences. Did you know anything about that?
No, I didn't know about that.
Where'd you pick that one up there, Andrea?
I just want to say that I know infinitely more than you, Marjorie.
On things that matter.
So it's just
on things that matter.
In the it's like one of those. I have a brain that sort of captures stuff like that and retains it inexplicably for very, very long periods of time.
But that is a pretty wild story, huh? Who
really
knew
wild.
Woody Harrelson's father was a hitman? I didn't know.
1979. It was also not, endless.
Yeah, he's no longer with us. He has died.
As I think people know, we didn't get to discuss this either when we were talking about Trump's attacks on the media earlier today with Chuck and with our listeners, Chuck Todd and our listeners. Trump has sued the New York Times, I think, for a mere $15 or $16 billion. I can't remember what the exact figure was, because they haven't been nice to him through the years, essentially, is what that really is. Is that a fair description? I mean, okay, you're nodding in agreement. Okay.
No, that's absolutely what it is.
Okay. Now, my initial reaction is has absolutely, and when I was saying to myself, should I worry about this? I said it has no merit. And then my other side of myself said, well, the case against CBS had no merit in terms of 60 Minutes editing of the Kamala Harris thing. The case against George Stephanopoulos on ABC,
no merit
for when he talked about what Trump did to Jean Carroll, had no merit. And then I heard the news with Henry Santoro a few minutes ago, and the great Harvard University, it's being praised every day for not capitulated a little more today, as they continue to do, I assume in the hopes that in the big picture, Trump will play nice with them, even though all the evidence is the more you capitulate, the worse it is for you. Should we worry not about the merits of Trump versus New York Times, but about the New York Times response?
Well, there's one big difference.
Oh, what is the big difference?
The big difference is that the New York Times is owned by a family.
Yeah.
They are not owned by one of these corporations that needs to crawl in front of the FCC.
Well, why don't they need to crawl too? I mean, why is an individual
because they're not
a wealthy
looking
family
for a merger? They're not looking.
I don't know. I mean, you don't know now they aren't, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's one of the saving graces.
Maybe you're right.
Andrea
How about it, Andrea?
I think that we should be worried. We don't hold Trump to account for frivolous lawsuits. The other thing we don't do, and this is a absolutely baseless, meritless lawsuit. He has been gunning for Suzanne Craig ever since she did the expose on his finances that ultimately led to the New York Attorney General going after him for the tax fraud.
Can I interrupt you 1 second?
Sure.
If I may, we the other day on the air when we read the New York Times, the Boston Globe editorial.
Oh wow!
In which the editorial basically said that Kirk's approach. We should get the exact language. If we can have that editorial brought in, please, colleagues. They use the word solution to part of what ails this country in terms of division. We were critical. A lot of letters to the editor, people were critical, and they were published to the credit of the Globe yesterday, the day before. Dan Kennedy is reporting that Renee Graham has quit the editorial board, not the paper, the editorial board of the Globe over their Charlie Kirk editorial. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did you read that editorial, Andrea, when it came out?
I did. The one that said that we need more Charlie Kirks?
Essentially, we're going to read from it specifically when it's brought into us in a minute. But what's your reaction to Renee Graham? And I have to say, I know I speak for Margaret. We are huge fans of
she's
Graham's
a terrific
work.
Columnist.
You cut out when you were saying what Dan Kennedy was reporting. He's
reporting, I'm sorry, that she hasn't quit the paper, but she quit the editorial board. She sat on the editorial board. Here's the key line from the Globe editorial the other day. The solution to political violence that killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk on Wednesday is more people like Charlie Kirk. That was a quote from the Globe editorial. What's your reaction to the whole deal there, Andrea?
Well, I think the negative reaction they got was well-deserved. There has been this, it's almost like a fugue state when it comes to talking about Charlie Kirk and this sort of universal decision, near universal decision to ignore the things he said and what he stood for. And these were hateful things. There's no doubt about that. There is no doubt that he co-founded or founded an organization, supposedly watchdog organization, that went after liberal college professors and others who spoke out in the hopes of getting them fired. So the man who's being lionized as this paragon and champion of free speech was literally out to destroy the livelihoods of people who were exercising their First Amendment rights. And that's in addition to all of the racist things he has said over the years, misogynist things he has said over the years, and the way he was trying to galvanize others to his cause. Now, he has a First Amendment right to do just that. But to ignore all of that and to say things like, we need more Charlie Kirks, if what you mean is we need more people that are willing to speak truth to power, are unafraid, that's one thing. But to say we need more Charlie Kirks means that you're embracing what he embodied in total. You're not making it clear when you have a headline like that what aspect of Charlie Kirk you're talking about, if any. It gives the impression that you believe that Charlie Kirk in total is what needs to be replicated, and that's why they got the reaction they got.
In light of, I just want to read a little bit more in fairness to the Globe editorial board. The first line is exactly as we read it. The solution, this is on September 12th. The solution to political violence that killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk on Wednesday is more people like Charlie Kirk. But further down they say, We all must accept that disagreements, even about fundamental moral and political questions, are normal, especially in a country as large and diverse as the U.S. The solution is to do what Kirk did and air those differences. We don't mean to sugarcoat the way he carried out his activism. Kirk could be bigoted, crude, and insulting, but the point is his weapon of choice was always words, is what the Globe editorial in question said.
I have to say, I think they chose the headline because they knew it would get clicks. Because to put the disclaimer, we're not excusing all of this. At the very end of the editorial, when that should have been the primary point, and then putting that headline on it tells me that was a conscious decision, and it was only changed when the backlash happened.
And let me
Which
repeat,
also leads to more people reading the editorial.
Let me just repeat again what Kennedy is reporting, Dan, is not that she quit the newspaper. She has quit her position on the editorial board.
Which is a shame. And a loss for their editorial board. I don't know how seriously they will take it, but they should be paying a lot of attention to that.
Well, I think it's significant that people that we have spoken to who are black, you, Governor Deval Patrick, Michael Curry, all called Charlie Kirk a racist. And I would not doubt what you say about this. And I think that that's something that seems to be often overlooked in some of the commentary about him.
Well, I mean, I was at dinner with some folks yesterday, and someone at the table suggested that it was performative for him. If you look at his background, he went to a college called Hopper College. He dropped out of college. He then sort of started to gravitate a little bit toward the political. He came under the wing of sort of this right-wing mentor who suggested that he follow that path, and that's sort of how he got on that path. And this person was suggesting that he didn't really believe it and it was performative. That doesn't matter. In my view, it doesn't matter whether it's performative or whether you really believe it. You are saying things and actively trying to amass followers that you want to believe the things you say. And the things you're saying are racist and misogynist and xenophobic and every other sort of ism that should be undesirable.
Andrea, we're out of time, but thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Be well.
We've been speaking with former Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. Up next, we're going to speak with Ambassador Nick Burns. Instead, we're going to talk with Doris Kearns Goodwin. She's next.
Weekends are for getting outside and getting projects done.
Roses are the divas of the garden. They want their own dressing room and better lighting and good snacks and excellent drinks.
Join us for the Garden Lady and This Old House Radio Hour.
Did you say there's bugs living in your wall?
Yes.
What you have, Emily, sounds like water infiltration.
Saturdays starting at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the DeMoore McKim School of Business at Northeastern University, where MBA and master's degree students can build vital business skills through experience. Learn more at northeastern.edu/business. And Burton's Grill and Bar, serving weekend brunch with dishes like cast iron French toast, chicken and waffles, and short rib hash. A gluten-free menu is available, with 8 locations in Greater Boston. burtonsgrill.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow, Live Music Friday, Meredith Goldstein, Joe Kennedy III, former congressman, and other great guests. The mayor joins us at the library for an hour for Ask the Mayor on the 23rd. The governor joins us at the library for an hour on the 30th. We were going to speak in this segment with former ambassador to China, Nick Burns, but a scheduling conflict came up. We will have Ambassador Burns back very soon. In the meantime, we'll bring you a recent wonderful conversation with historian Doris Kearns Goodwin on the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. Here is that conversation with me. Sue O'Connell was filling in that day for Marjorie, and Doris Kearns Goodwin from earlier last month. Doris, it's great to see you as always.
I'm so glad to be with you on this day.
We're so glad to be with you.
Luckily, I already have her autograph on a number of books, so I didn't have to bring any in, so I didn't have to carry the big books. Great.
They are big and fat.
And
that
I
is
like
true.
them that way. That's great. So why don't we just gather around the fireplace here, and if you could just tell us the story, tell us the saga, tell us the song of how the Voting Rights Act came to be. What happened?
Well, it really starts in January of 1965, and Lyndon Johnson had thought they could not have voting rights in 65 because they had to absorb the Civil Rights Bill of 64, and then he'd have it in 66. But Martin Luther King had other plans, so he came to talk to Johnson, and Johnson understood. He said, what if you find a place, it's one of these telephone conversations, those great telephone conversations, find a place where it's really bad in the South. And they found, of course, Selma, where 55% of the people were black in Selma, and only 2% were able to be registered, because they prevented people from registering. You know, they'd say, how many seeds are there in a watermelon? How many jelly beans are in that jar? What's the 14th Amendment, the 10th Amendment? And people couldn't register as a result. And so he staged there, the marches there, and Johnson said to him, just make it so that the ordinary person who drives a tractor is going to say, this isn't fair, this isn't right. And so they were doing the march, as we know, in Selma in March of 65, and they were met by the armed troopers, and it was all captured on television. And those peaceful marchers were hit with bullwhips, with clubs and horses going into them. They went hospitalized, and people saw that, and just as Johnson had predicted, they knew this isn't right, this isn't fair. So he decided, okay, the time has come now, I'm going to do this. He decided on a Sunday night that he would give a speech to a joint session of Congress on Monday, because he knew the conscience of the country had been fired. And that was the speech called We Shall Overcome speech that goes ahead of when we finally get, before this bill is actually passed, and it really helped to make the bill. And that's the one my husband worked on, as well as on the signing statement here.
So there was an interesting story, this part of this. Some guy is on vacation, sailing off Martha's Vineyard. I think it's the day that this actually is about to happen. I can't remember. Who was the guy, first of all?
Well, maybe Richard Goodwin,
your former husband, your late
yes.
husband. Okay, so this story is unbelievable. He is out sailing. This is pre-cell phones, obviously, pre all that stuff. What happens?
So what happened is he had already gone and finished the signing statement, of which you read part of it, right? And he had gone on vacation. Finally, I can get away from Lyndon Johnson. And he's out on a little sailfish in the morning of August 6th, this very morning, and all of a sudden this huge Coast Guard cutter cuts 60 feet, and it pulls right up, decides that the President of the United States needs you immediately in Washington. And so he said,
what an image.
So meanwhile, they've got a plane waiting, the Vice President's plane. It comes on the runway in Martha's Vineyard, which was a much more rough runway. It actually hurt the runway. They had to repair the runway. And then the limousine is waiting when he gets to Washington, and he just has to follow up following that speech. Now, I was in the House that day, too. I mean, I didn't know my husband yet.
You were like 20, right?
Well, 22.
22, okay.
So I was working for my congressman from Long Island, and it was so exciting to know that the bill was going to be signed in the Capitol Dome that day. I, of course, was not going to be part of that ceremony, but all of the people in my office, we got together to watch it on television. And there was that feeling like this is so historic, and we're part of it. And all summer long, it had been a summer of wonder. All the Great Society legislation, Medicare and Medicaid. Every time one of those passed, everybody would go and have drinks and celebrate. And then finally, NPR and PBS and National Arts and Humanities. It was just I felt like I was part of something that was much larger than myself. So that was exciting. When I think about 60 years ago, I was there. I knew it was happening.
Does it feel like a different country to you that you're living in now?
It does. I mean, when I remember all of this, and then I think the part that reminds me every single day of what that was like at that time is that after he finished the signing statement that we listened to, he then went to the president's room. It's a special room off the Senate to give the pens out. He would give hundreds of pens out. And first one he gave was to Humphrey and Dirksen, because they were the Congress on bipartisan. As you said, it was overwhelmingly supported, this bill. That's the sad thing to realize. The country was happy. Not just black people were happy. We were happy that we were doing something great. And then the next one was to Martin Luther King and Whitney, et cetera. And then he finally said, well, where's Dick Goodwin? And so they bring him in. And then the picture that we've had in our study for years captures a picture of Dick getting the shaking the hand, getting the pen, and then it's put there. There it is. Look at that. So there's Speaker McCormick. So that hung on my the study of my husband until he died, and I now have it in book.
What's that do to you seeing that? I know it's in your life.
I see it every day, but today when I woke up this morning and saw it and realized, oh my God, this is 60 years ago, and look what we're dealing with today in terms of what's going on in Texas and the fight against voting rights. It was a better time.
How did Dick reflect? when he talked to you about that moment, you didn't know him then. How did he reflect on that moment?
There's no question he thought the passage of the Voting Rights Bill and whatever small part, the speech that Lyndon Johnson gave to the joint session of Congress that he had helped work on, had helped to make that happen, was probably the proudest moment in his public life. You never forget that.
Doris, my mother loved to hate LBJ. It was a passion of hers. I think it was a hobby. I had a great opportunity spending a lot of time in the car with my daughter once where I talked about Lyndon Johnson, the type of president was, the things that he did that you could never do today, and how he was able to strong-arm people to get to do things. He'd tell one person one thing that they wanted to hear, the other person another, to come to this common good. And at one point she looked at me and she said, he sounds like Donald Trump in a way, in this bombastic, bigger-than-life sort of figure. And it struck me, this is first term Donald Trump, but at the same time I'm wondering, could anybody else have done what LBJ did? And is there a new LBJ model that we should look at to save America right now?
Well, I think you're right that he was a force of nature. I mean, when he was coming into a room, you couldn't take your eyes off him. I mean, he just was, first of all, he's big. I mean, how tall are you?
6'5".
Yeah, I think you might even be a little bigger than him.
Yeah, but I've never dominated a room, so it's an alien
You're dominating
concept.
us right now. But there was I think the most important thing he did is he knew when he won that election in 1964 by a huge majority that he had only a short amount of time to make it good. Yeah. And he knew, he said, I'll start losing support immediately. I'll say something stupid and then half the people will go against me. Maybe I'll send boys to foreign lands, sadly, which is what happened. Yeah. So he said, get your asses off the ground, everybody on your staff. Let's get it going. And it was like an assembly line. He knew which bill was coming first, Medicare, Medicaid. And then as soon as that was moving, then he got the next one going. And then he got the next one going. And what happened in 65 was miraculous. It really was the social revolution, justice revolution, that we're still now trying to tear apart, some people are in the country. And we've got to remember what it felt like when that was right.
So let's talk about that erosion a little bit. Was the Shelby decision was the first of the damaging episodes out of the Supreme Court of the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened is that part of the Voting Rights Act said that if anybody especially in the southern states, were going to change their voting apparatus and their registration drives and who could vote and whatever, it had to be cleared by the federal government. And that meant
in advance,
pre-clearance. And then what Shelby did was to say, well, they don't need to do it anymore. We're fine now. This is many years later. And then the minute that was done, then the states in the South, Alabama and Louisiana, started, you have to have an ID. They started to say you can't have, mail-in driving. The registration drives are less. They started chipping away at it. So, and then you've had more decisions since that. After that, it makes it harder to issue a legal fight against discrimination. And then obviously you've got people now in the states saying, okay, we have to have not as many drop boxes. You can't have a registration on the same day. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. In this country, should not be a partisan thing. Everybody should be able to vote as much as possible. That's what democracy depends on. What is democracy? It's simply a system of government where people can vote the leaders in or vote the leaders out. And that means most people should have the chance to vote most of the time. We should have a week of voting. You could have 2 days of voting. You could have voting as a holiday. And the idea that you're cutting out voting, which is the only thing that a democracy can finally depend upon, is something that everybody should care about on either side of the aisle.
So after that Shelby decision, which, by the way, I mentioned who wrote it only because at one point Marjorie, and I have to say I, to a degree, believed that Chief Justice Roberts was going to save the democracy from its ruin, but he's participated in its ruin. He not only wrote that decision, he wrote the immunity decision last year, which is catastrophic, to say the least. There are two kinds of gerrymandering, without giving people a headache. There's partisan gerrymandering, which you just do it to help, like they're allegedly the only motivation in Texas, even though some people think it spills into racial gerrymandering, which the Supreme Court said a bunch of years ago, the federal courts will have no involvement in. If state courts want to do it, it's fine. And racial gerrymandering, some prohibitions, even though it's been weakened, please correct me if I'm wrong, continues to be an issue. But the Supreme Court just took a case just very recently, and the indication is from the majority that once again, we don't have to worry about these kinds of issues anymore. And we may be at the point where racial gerrymandering is no longer precluded constitutionally.
Yeah, you know, again, in the 1960s, that incredible decade that I'm so glad to have grown up in, it was a real sense that how lucky to be there at that time and be young. Two really important Supreme Court cases occurred then that created one man, one vote. So the standard is that everybody's vote should count as much as everybody else's. So that means that if you've got Texas and 50% of the people are Republican and 50% of the people are Democrats, and then you make it so that only 10% are going to be able to vote for a Democrat. That's not right. That's not one man, one vote. It's also why when the census comes and you get more people in a city, you have to be able to give them more representation because they're people. So that standard has never been fully met, but it was really where the Democrats were moving was to try and have these independent commissions. And now they're going to have to go against that in order to fight fire with fire, as they're saying. But maybe after this is over, whatever happens, we can go back to that. And that's what everybody would be so much better off with, an independent commission who decided where this district should be so that it would be fair. How great it would be if you had Republicans and Democrats in the same district fighting against each other.
You know, can we just stay on that for 1 second? As you know, California does have an independent commission. Gavin Newsom, who said, let's fight fire with fire, the current governor, said he's going to propose a measure for this November's ballot, which would undo the independent commission so that California could do a tit for tat, if not more, with what happened in Texas. We opened the show today asking listeners if we first played Michelle Obama's legendary "When They Go Low, We Go High," and we sort of bastardized it a bit by saying, is it time for the Democrats to go low, or at least go the same? I think the conclusion we reached was, and the listeners reached, was an absolute yes. Do you share that?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. What you got to hope is that if this thing then works itself out, then afterwards they come back and they say this was temporary, and now we're going to go back to that. Because if this continues each time, every 2 years, then the thing's going to be impossible.
Does that ever happen, though? Does that ever happen where people sort of get down, I don't even want to say in the mud, but let's call it in the mud, and then after some sort of balance is recreated, they decide to redo what they had undone? Has that ever happened?
I suspect it has. I mean, I can't think of it right now, but I think you can be at a different point and you can say, okay, we don't want this anymore. So I think that's possible. I mean, you've got to believe that people have decency still in them in the country.
We're talking to Doris Kearns Goodwin, on the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act.
You know, Doris Kearns Goodwin, one thing that I've been surprised about that I've learned so much during the Trump administrations is how so much of what I thought was law was just habit, suggestions, just decorum, well, we won't do that because it might be illegal, but apparently it isn't really unless this happens. And I'm just wondering, sort of to your point, I mean, I'm also a bit of an institutionalist. I'm always trusting that the institution, whatever it is overwhelmingly going to work, that the people are doing their best, that things will work and get done the way they are. But as I said earlier, and I don't know if I said it on the air or to Jim, I feel like a lot of people are just standing holding the rule book going, no, wait, you can't do this, when the time might be to rip it up and to take action. I mean, is that really, and how would someone do that? How would a regular person say, I'm not going to put up with this anymore, I'm going to make a change?
Well, I mean, all the great changes in the country have come from the ground up, from regular persons. I mean, that's the important thing. We have to remember when we feel powerless right now, some people might. When Lincoln was called a liberator after he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, he said, no, don't call me that. It was the anti-slavery movement and the Union soldiers that did it all. And that movement took decades to develop, right? There was a progressive movement in the cities and states before Teddy Roosevelt came in with a square deal for the rich and the poor. And there was, of course, the civil rights movement, the gay rights movement, the women's movement, the environmental movement. We have to have a political revolution movement, I think. And my husband wrote a book called Promises to Keep before he died, which called for campaign finance reform, called for actually term limits and for gerrymandering problem limits. And we're at a stage now where I think the whole structure itself needs changing. And we can do that. Filibuster change, possibly. These things happen if people demand them and people haven't put enough people in place who will say, please, you got to pledge you're going to do this if you get in there. And the other problem, I think, is the campaign finance is still a huge problem. The amount of time people have to spend to stay in office and to win office means that they're thinking about the moneyed people more than the ordinary people. It's not fun to do that. So I don't think our best people are entering public life in certain ways. And then when they get there, they're there from Tuesdays to Thursdays. They run home to raise the money. They used to live together. Well, they didn't live together. Well, some of them did, I guess.
They did. Yeah.
They did. Those bachelors would live in those
course.
places. Yes, of course. And their kids knew each other. So they're not going to do the kind of things that they're doing against each other now when there's a human being that's right there every day with them that they know.
You know, you mentioned a minute ago, Doris Kearns Goodwin, that, most great things this country has achieved started from the bottom up. The spirit I am is not about Donald Trump and his misogynistic, racist, hateful, sadistic behavior. It's the American people's response is so tepid. I'll harken back. I mentioned this before. We had a conversation with Carol Rose, the head of the Civil Liberties Union yesterday, who is very pro small d democratic action, and she of course mentioned the rally that was huge, but it was a couple of months ago, and I've mentioned, as I mentioned earlier in the show, the headlines in the Globe: dozens rally for so-and-so, dozens rally for, what happened? Where did this passivity, this tweet from my underwear on the couch mentality, where did this come from?
Speak for yourself, Jim.
I mean, it's deeper even than the people not showing up and following through on movements. And it took discipline. When that civil rights movement was going, what if they had said at the middle of the bridge, oh, well, this is too hard, we're just going to go backwards. But they had been fighting sit-ins and going into stores and marches for such a long period of time. They had leaders, they had discipline, they worked on it. And I think now it's just a matter of anybody getting out of their phones and out of their passivity as a person to do things. And yes, we had a 1 million person march when Trump first came in, but what was the follow-up to that march? And we've had town meetings now where people are rallying, and we've seen marches, but then you have to follow up on it. It means you commit yourself and time and energy to doing something collectively. And I think people have become much too individualistic now. This is what's happened. There was a feeling when we talked about this, I think, one other time when I was here, when I was at the Civil Rights March in 1963, that feeling of being part of something larger than yourself is contagious. It's a great feeling. I'm doing something to make things better. But it means you're going to put aside a lot of your time to do that, and you have to have people to do it with.
The other thing, too, which I've noticed, covering the Karen Reed trial, right, and seeing the people who call themselves Free Karen Reed, who are everything from progressive liberals to card-carrying MAGA Trump supporters, they're now having a hard time sort of staying together to find a reason to fight for stuff. If you suggest to one side rather than the other, well, our institutions have problems. Can we work together to fix them? And I wonder, certainly people came together for the voting. How do you bring people together after they have had a common goal, but now they have to find a way to stay together? We learned in the election, saving democracy wasn't a good enough message.
Right. I mean, that's what takes leadership. It takes words.
Leaders.
It takes leadership. It takes leadership. And they have to be able to talk in ways that they can motivate people and inspire people. It doesn't mean large, big language. It means just talking to them and listening to them and putting people together and say, will you come to this? Will you come to this? People would feel, I think, so much happier having more. I mean, just that famous book that was written, Bowling Alone.
The notion of the book, by the way, we should say, is that people don't belong to social clubs or unions or whatever anymore. So rather than being in joint gatherings which inspire everybody, they're, quote, bowling alone.
And the great Alexis de Tocqueville, that great philosopher, when he came to America, he said the real strength of our democracy was that we just are in all sorts of clubs. We have a club for a garden club. We have all these things. We're always with other people. And that's not true now. So I think it's the isolation of people that feel that they're not part of something larger than themselves. But people can still rally you to do that. I still got to believe that desire to be able to make your country a better place, to make your town, make your city. I've said before and will say again, I still think what we need to do for high school kids, and David McCullough's grandson is working on this in a smaller way called the American Exchange. You bring kids after high school to another part of the country, and they see and hear with what other people feel like, even though it's very different from their own. We live in silos. And he does that for a week at a time after the kid graduates from high school rather. And then they know this is what it's like in Cotulla, Texas. The Cotulla kid comes to Wellesley. Oh, this is what it's like there. They're not so so divided
They're
that we
not
can't talk
siloed.
to each
They're not
siloed.
siloed
That's
in
the
their
word.
own spots,
Exactly.
right.
Can I one
And
up
that's why I
David
want a
for a couple-
national service program.
Well, it's funny you say that. We talk about it a lot on the show. I do. Is why shouldn't there be mandatory service for high school kids? A year between high school and college. Go meet people who are not like you. Understand how you benefit from service as much as those who you're serving. Just nobody has the courage to do it.
I mean, people want it, but it's a hard process to figure out how to do it. But look at the success of City Year. Look at the AmeriCorps. There's more people wanting to do those programs than they have spaces. If I had one thing to do, it would be national. They can either go in the military or national service. But I know my son who was in the military, he said that nothing will ever, he did it after 9/11, he joined the Army. As you know, we've talked about it, but he said nothing will ever go back in his mind to what it was like to have a platoon of kids from all different parts, classes, different sections, and bring them together for a common mission. And those missions that the kids could do in that year after high school could be, they could help with flood control, they could help with natural disasters, they could read to people, they could do all sorts of things. That will change them when they go back.
Okay, so almost every time you're here, Doris Kearns Goodwin, here's how the interview ends. I turn to you and say, you've been really optimistic today. Do you really feel that, or do you feel you have to present that? Today, you don't seem quite as optimistic as you've been in the past.
I feel the sad irony of what's happened today, 60 years ago, and what we're watching in Texas right now. But there's a fight going on in Texas right now. And I think if people could just remember, that's why these anniversaries are so important. Remember how it felt when it was good. If you lose that, that's why when we cut back on history, it's disastrous, because it's heartbreaking, because then we don't even know what happened in these troubling times. And there's a feeling like people need to say, we don't want to teach people and make them feel guilty about Jim Crow or slavery. Let's not teach it. Unless you teach how we struggled to get where we are, you'll never get the good feeling. So this is good today, because 60 years ago today, an incredible thing happened that changed the face of the country. We did it then, we can do it. We're still people who believe in the country.
That was the voice of Doris Kearns Goodwin, presidential historian, speaking with Jim and Sue O'Connell back in August. Coming up after this quick break, State Auditor Diana DiZoglio joins us for an update on her efforts to audit the legislature, voted into law by Massachusetts residents more than a year ago. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Feel like the price of that so-called value meal cheeseburger is higher than normal? Well, the team at NPR's daily economics podcast, The Indicator, looked into why, and they spoke to a source with a beefy name to get the scoop.
My name's Jack Berger. I'm a rancher from Saratoga, Wyoming.
I'm Scott Detrow. A cattle farmer breaks down the recent boom in beef prices on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Minus 33 Merino Wool in Ashland, New Hampshire. Since 1916, makers of all-natural merino wool underwear, outerwear, and New Hampshire-made socks. Their merino wool clothing and accessories are available at minus33.com. And Heights Crossing, an assisted living and memory support community offering residents experiences aimed at promoting independence, inspiring curiosity, and encouraging connection with others. More at heightscrossing.com.
Welcome back to BPR, Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow, Live Music Friday, former Congressman Joe Kennedy III, and more. Earlier this week, during our special broadcast from Springfield, we were joined in studio by Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell, and like every time she is on, we talked about question 1, the ballot question that passed overwhelmingly last November to allow the auditor, the state auditor, to audit the legislature. In a second, we'll play sound of what the AG said about the status of that question. But first, let's bring in the Massachusetts state auditor herself, Diana DiZoglio. She's on Zoom. Auditor, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me. I myself am in Springfield right now. Sorry I missed you when you were here.
Missed you too.
We're at Massachusetts Day at the Big E and getting ready to go in and to chat with some of the local vendors and folks that are coming out today to celebrate and enjoy the region. So it's exciting.
Great, enjoy.
We were there. We had the finished pancakes and the pierogies.
We did.
Ooh, I'm going to go get a pierogi. Good idea.
Okay, so here's Attorney General Andrea Campbell, who was on our show on Tuesday.
I'm putting this on the auditor. And then we even took it a step further. We sent correspondence to that effect saying we still need more details even to do that type of appointment. We haven't heard anything. Crickets.
They didn't respond to that?
Crickets. And so this is why I don't want to sort of get in this tit for tat, because I agree with you. We have no time to waste, yet we cannot make a move unless we are getting what we need from the auditor.
Before you ask the auditor what her reaction is, let me just say I screwed up in the editing of that tape. When the auditor says we even took it a step further, what I left out inadvertently, here's what she said. We even took it a step further. If you still want representation, meaning the auditor, and you don't want it to be us directly, we can do a special appointment of an attorney general, and that's where the attorney general says we sent correspondence to that effect, etc.
So what is your response to what the attorney general said, Auditor?
This is another delay tactic. The Attorney General is working with legislative leaders to block the audit that the Commonwealth voted for to the tune of 72%. The Attorney General has been rewarded quite heavily in her budget, this budget cycle, and the excuse for why the Attorney General got such a budget increase during a time when many other budgets are suffering across the Commonwealth or even getting cut, is that money is supposed to be used to defend the Commonwealth against threats to democracy. But the one caveat that's not being talked about is that those threats to democracy need to exist only at the federal level if the Attorney General is going to use her budget in order to enforce the law in any way to protect democracy. We have a threat to democracy right here in Massachusetts. We have legislative leaders undermining the will of the people, undermining democracy, refusing to follow a 72% voter mandated law. That is a threat to democracy. That is undermining democracy. The Attorney General has a responsibility to enforce the law. Now, here's what I'm going to say as a follow-up to the Attorney General's most recent comments, once again trying to scapegoat my office for her office's failure to do their jobs. We are auditors. We are not attorneys. We do not enforce the law. We do not have any power to prosecute. We do not have any power to make sure that other elected officials or other state entities are actually following the law. I did not run for Attorney General. I ran for state auditor. The Attorney General did run for Attorney General, which is the top law enforcement office of this state. Now, what does that mean? That means she has an obligation to enforce the law, not tell us why she's refusing to enforce the law and then blame it on another elected official or on another office. If I try to conduct an audit and somebody refuses to answer questions for that audit, or they refuse to provide me with the documentation that I need to be able to do my job, I send them a letter from my general counsel letting them know that we will be suing them unless they provide us with the documents we need to do our job, which is to conduct an audit. Because it's the Attorney General's job to enforce the law, if she is somehow being prevented from doing her job because of anything that any office is doing, including mine, which is what she's alleging, then she needs to sue. And what do I mean by that? She needs to sue my office if she really feels as though we are not giving her information that she needs to be able to do her job. If my office is not answering questions, if my office is not giving her documents that she needs to be able to enforce the law and make sure that legislative leaders are following an audit and that this audit is getting conducted, then she needs to make sure that she is suing and enforcing the law and bringing this to court and making sure that that law gets enforced. We should be giving her all the documents she needs. We have given her everything we can. We continue to answer every question we can. It's not good enough. And because of that, I'm essentially calling on the Attorney General to sue my office if she needs to get access to documents that she claims we're not providing her, because I'm happy to go and meet everybody in court and to provide any documents that are needed to get this law followed.
Auditor, two very quick things. You only have a minute and plus left. Are you saying there's an explicit deal between the legislative leaders and the Attorney General to undermine your question?
I'm saying that I believe that the Attorney General and legislative leaders are working together to block this audit, and that is incredibly concerning.
Okay, so you just said, I'll beat you in court. We have a proposal, Marjorie and I, for you. Rather than every month talking to the Attorney General, who blames you, talking to you, who blames the Attorney General, if we were to invite you and the Attorney General on to the show together to try to resolve this face-to-face, not talking past each other, but to each other, would you agree to that, getting together?
100%. 100%. I will be there. I look forward to it.
Fine.
We need to get this out and air everything out, and we need to get to the bottom of what's really going on here, because we can't keep going in circles like this. We are begging for assistance. We are begging for representation. And I do not have confidence that anyone's going to help up on Beacon Hill. I am willing to be sued in a court of law to give the documents that any judge tells me to give. I'm willing to meet her on the air. But we need to get this done, and we need to stop allowing these excuses to continue to get made.
We appreciate your acceptance, and at 2 o'clock today, we'll reach out to the AG to invite her as well, and we'll get back to you. Auditor, thank you so much for your time.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it, everybody. Take care.
well.
Have a good one.
That was State Auditor Diana DiZoglio. We thank her very much for her time. After the 1 o'clock news, a story of family homecoming. The Hills of California is a production now at the Huntington Theater. We'll speak with director Loretta Greco and 2 cast members, Allison Jean White and Kate Fitzgerald. They are up next. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Support the news that drives you. Donate your old car, truck, boat, or other used vehicle to GBH. Visit our website at gbh.org/vehicle donation for more info.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865. And Newport Mansions, presenting the 20th Annual Newport Mansions Wine and Food Festival this weekend at Rosecliff. Seminars, tastings, and a live discussion with celebrated chef Marcus Samuelson. Tickets at newportmansions.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, head on Hour 3 of BPR. We'll start the hour with Loretta Greco, who directs the Huntington Theater's new production, The Hills of California, about a family of sisters who reunite as their mother nears death. Loretta will be joined by cast members in our studio, Allison Jean White and Kate Fitzgerald.
I'm Marjorie Egan. That is my favorite day of the week. Am I the a-hole day? This week's moral dilemma: should you be able to brush your teeth anywhere besides the bathroom sink? How about the office sink or the kitchen sink? Who's the bigger jerk? The person who brushes everywhere or the person who complains? Weigh in next in the third hour of BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Trump administration is now asking the U.S. Supreme Court to allow the president to fire Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve's governing board, days after a federal appeals court blocked Cook's dismissal. Without evidence, Trump has accused Cook of committing mortgage fraud. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says his government will recognize a Palestinian state unless Israel commits to peace in Gaza. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports President Trump says he disagrees.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer, during a joint press conference, said he and President Trump agreed on the need to end the conflict in Gaza and secure the release of the hostages. Trump said he wants the immediate release of hostages and said that it's important to remember the Hamas-led attacks against Israel on October 7th, 2023. He acknowledged, though, that he had a different opinion regarding recognizing the Palestinian state.
I have a disagreement with the Prime Minister on that score. Okay? One of our few disagreements, actually.
France, Canada, and Australia have also said they would recognize a Palestinian state. Trump has said doing so would only reward Hamas. Franco Ordonez, NPR News.
A judge in Washington, D.C. has temporarily blocked the administration from deporting Guatemalan and Honduran children who were sent to the U.S. unaccompanied. U.S. District Judge Timothy Kelly extended a decision first issued over the Labor Day weekend. NPR's Jimena Bustillo reports.
Lawyers for dozens of minors say their clients fear going home and their removal would be a violation of their due process rights and federal law. Guatemalan President Bernardo Arevalo has told reporters he wanted to prevent vulnerable children from being sent to ICE detention centers. Arevalo says his officials have, quote, toured detention centers for Guatemalans and were, quote, very concerned for the young migrants. Nearly all the children were in the custody of Health and Human Services Department's Office of Refugee Resettlement and living at shelters in the Phoenix and Tucson areas. Kelly, who was appointed by Trump, granted a preliminary injunction that extends temporary protection indefinitely. The government can appeal this decision. Jimena Bustillo, NPR News, Washington.
A new study finds vitamin B3 supplements may help prevent a recurrence of skin cancer. NPR's Allison Aubrey reports a study included more than 33,000 veterans who've been treated for the disease.
Doctors who perform skin cancer surgeries often recommend nicotinamide, a form of vitamin B3. Small studies have shown it can help prevent non-melanoma skin cancers. The new research adds to the evidence, says study author Lee Wheelis of Vanderbilt University.
A 53% reduction in the risk of skin cancers among patients taking nicotinamide.
B3 supplements are widely available over the counter. The participants took 500 milligrams twice a day for at least 30 days. Allison Aubrey, NPR News.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston City Councilor Ed Flynn has had it up to here with third-party delivery companies that use e-bikes, scooters, and mopeds to deliver food around the city. Flynn says the two-wheel delivery sources are causing mayhem on the city streets and sidewalks, and he wants an outright ban on the use of these mopeds and e-bikes that shuttle food around the town. Other councilors, however, say a ban would hit immigrant and minority drivers the hardest, and that the city should actually look at increased outreach and also education to get the two-wheel drivers to obey the rules of the road. And don't look now, but today is Massachusetts Day at the Big E in West Springfield, a day when nearly 40 vendors at the Big E showcase the Bay State's well-known foods and products like lobster rolls, clam chowder, Boston cream pie, homemade chocolates. Also on hand are signature Massachusetts products like candles and soaps, handmade baseball bats, who knew that, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey and Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, as well as Secretary of the Commonwealth Bill Galvin, all scheduled to attend Massachusetts Day at the Big E. My biggest challenge at the Big E isn't deciding what to eat. It's eating so much I can't remember my own name by the end of the day. In sports, Red Sox A's wrap up their series this afternoon at Fenway. The game starts about a half hour from now. Thursday night football, the Dolphins at the Bills. 72 degrees in Boston right now. We're starting to see some sunshine. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include BetterHelp, committed to supporting mental health through therapy and helping clients find balance. Clients are matched with one of 30,000 therapists for online therapy from anywhere at betterhelp.com/public.
Here we go.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We're going to be back. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back tomorrow at the Boston Public Library, Live Music Friday. 2 programming notes. The Mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, is going to be with us at the library September 23rd, and the Governor of the Commonwealth, Maura Healey, is going to be with us also at the library on September 30th. Hello again, Jim.
And former Congressman Joe Kennedy III is going to be with us at the library tomorrow to talk about his uncle, RFK Jr., and some other less sordid things, I should say. So we're happy to announce that we've concluded the 2-hour misery and we are doomed portions of our program.
Yes, that's right. We're moving on.
Here we go. The Hills of California, the multi-Tony nominated play, is at the Huntington through October 12th. Tells the story of 4 sisters coming home to the seaside house hotel where they grew up as their mother is dying and as they reckon with their mother's choices and their childhood. Here's a little tiny bit of what you'll hear from the Hills of California, as I say, now at the Huntington.
The Hills of California will give you a start. I guess I better warn ya, 'cause you'll lose your heart.
One of the singers has an odd look on her face.
Yes.
We'll talk about this in a second.
Fantastic harmonies. I thought you left the Andrews sisters in the dust, actually.
We're joined now by Huntington Artistic Director Loretta Greco. Congratulations. It's great. Loretta. Allison Jean White, who plays Mother Veronica. And can I say what else you play? I'm not allowed to.
Sure.
And the older Joan, the grown-up Joan, and Kate Fitzgerald, who plays a young Joan. He just heard sing. Loretta, Allison, Kate, it's great to have you. Congratulations. Glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
So somebody that wrote about you guys talked about the piano being a little off tune at the beginning, was sort of a metaphor for a family being a little out of key as well. But give us an idea of what this play is about, Loretta.
This play is about family and about reckoning with the past. And it's really cool because it actually does have the past directly colliding with the present. So it is it is present in terms of how it continues to inform. And it's about the slipperiness of truth in the hands of four sisters.
Yeah. Everyone has a different
Loretta,
version.
We saw a dress rehearsal. Neither of us had ever been to a dress rehearsal before.
No, we had not.
And it was pretty thrilling, and we'll tell people why it was doubly thrilling in a couple of minutes. You said, I think, when you were addressing the audience, that you loved the thing, obviously, and you brought it here, but you also made some alterations to the final act of the play. What did you do exactly?
Well, I did. One of the things, I had seen the play in London, and I was so bowled over. Jez Butterworth is one of our finest writers for the theater, but he traditionally writes these ferocious roles for men. So I was gobsmacked to come into the theater and see 8 women at the center of it. It ran in London successfully, and then before that production came to New York, he rewrote all of Act 3.
Oh, I see.
And so I saw it again in New York, and I was just so moved by somebody who's so decorated, so accomplished, looking at an act and going, you know what, that West End run, it wasn't good enough. I want to reimagine what should happen in the third act.
What drew you to the play, Allison?
Oh my gosh! I mean, so much. But I mean, it's an amazing role. I mean, it's an amazing play. It's an amazing world. It's just a big, rich world to live in, and the role itself is just, it's a dream to play, the mother going through this very interesting journey, and then I get to play one of the daughters grown up. So it's just, there's ways in which these two characters are different, similar. There's a lot to sort of mine and let grow.
There are a couple of great men in this, but does the 8 women thing not have huge appeal? I mean, they are.
Yeah,
the men were great.
They were second tier. Second tier. They were great actors, but it was mostly about these forces. I mean, I'm not giving away too much to say it starts with the mother who's dying, and the girls coming back, or in one case we weren't sure you were going to come back. But so we see the older women, and then we see you, Joan, younger Joan, playing the younger Joan. So how did you wind up with this role?
Ooh, well, actually, this is the second show that I've gotten to do at the Huntington. So I worked at the end of last season on The Light in the Piazza.
We saw that. It was great.
Yes, that was terrific. I love that.
Oh, one of my favorites as well. It was so much fun. So that's sort of how I got connected to the Huntington. And I had read this play about a year ago at this time, and I didn't get to see it, but I knew that I wanted to be in it. And so when I found out the Huntington was doing it, I secretly was very excited. And it all worked out very well for me.
And the young singers were such great singers. These just weren't any old actors.
They were great. I need to say that 3 of them are Boco alum and 1 BU. They're local. And
the conservatory is at Boco?
Yes.
Okay.
And
that includes you, right?
Yes, including me.
And I will say, we went to New York. We saw people from all over the country. And I just was like, no, it's these girls.
Yeah.
It's these young women. And they are so terrific and generative and generous with one another and with the audience.
Yeah, the harmonies were great.
Loretta, I think we have to be transparent, Marjorie. We need your feedback on something. So we went to a dress rehearsal. And the day of the show, we had the Willis brothers on. The Willis brothers are local guys who are the founders of Bully Boy Distillery.
Yeah.
And they brought Marjorie a bottle of pre-made Negroni. So Marjorie and I are talking and saying it's a dress rehearsal. What the hell?
Well, I didn't know there would be any refreshments.
So in any case,
rehearsal.
She brings in a container of Negroni, a container of ice, We do it as quietly as possible
I love
because we're in the
this so
front row
much.
and we're drinking Negronis during the hills of California.
What could be better?
Is that kosher?
What
or is
could
that,
be better?
is that-
It's so kosher. I love that you asked this. You're going to get me in so much trouble. No, I'm such a rule breaker, and I love a Negroni, and I actually love that bully boy.
Isn't it great?
That gin is really delicious.
They're great guys,
yeah.
too.
Yeah,
They're
it's
fabulous
good to
guys.
know.
You don't have
Yeah.
to worry about screwing up the cocktail because it's right there.
No,
made for you.
I had
It's
no
really
idea.
good.
I love a good Negroni. So, and I think what better? I mean, listen, family always requires a little alcohol, right?
yeah. But your character is the mom, single mom. She's got 4 daughters. You get the sense that she's really scraping by. We mentioned it was a sea view, but it wasn't really a sea view, and it wasn't really luxurious, and it was kind of a little shady rooming house kind of deal. And she's trying to make these girls into a star, like kind of the stage mom.
Yeah. She's hoping that they'll be the next sister act, next Andrew's sister, after the Andrews sisters.
Yeah.
Just has these amazing, talented young ladies and hoping that they're going to soar.
And then this creepy guy comes to see you.
Don't say anything.
I won't say anything. I won't say anything.
Talk about the Negronis
creepy.
instead.
Again, a wonderful actor, but the role he played was kind of creepy.
By the way, we came out for whatever. We should have said this before, and we wouldn't have said it if it weren't. The 8 of you are just 8 of you.
The acting's fantastic.
Just spectacular. I mean, just
Thank you.
every
And you know what
single
else?
one was so terrific and so real.
The set is spectacular. I mean, you have the living room there with the stairs going up, and you can kind of see where the rooming house is, and then it just turns around to become the kitchen from when everybody was little.
It's like a real play almost. Is that what you're saying there, Marty?
Sometimes you don't see great sets.
It's spectacular.
It's a really great set.
Thank you for saying it because it's an incredible team of designers from all over the country, and it's our mighty set, our scenic shop. Our shop is incredible. So they built that, they painted it, all the wallpaper is all hand done by paint. And last night at opening, the curtain came up and it got a huge round of applause. And then when the turntable moved to the kitchen, another round of applause. It was
great.
And I felt like that was both for the designers and for the people who engineered it.
Okay, so we're talking to Loretta Greco, who is the artistic director at the Huntington, directed Hills of California, Allison Jean White, and Kate Fitzgerald, who are 2 of the 8 incredible leads, and the men were fine too. They're better than fine. They were really, we're going to ask you the same question we ask all people who are artists like you, since in the middle, I don't know if it was in the middle of COVID, Andres Nelson's is a favorite of ours. He's the music conductor at the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and on with it. I think he's on with us next week, actually, on pretty regularly. And he was the first person to say to us as beautifully as he speaks,
Tuesday.
like he conducts, it's just so Tuesday. Talking about how extra important the arts are in painful times like we have now. And not only that, he went on to say people see and listen to arts and view arts differently when the world around them is sort of falling apart. And I was thinking of that. It was a particularly bad day when we came to, in terms of the world, when we came to the theater. Do you subscribe to the Andres Nelson's school of thought? Explain a little bit.
Absolutely. I think that, the people who come to the Huntington are all different kinds of people. And I feel like it's a great responsibility and a great honor to be able to gather people together. And I do think every time we see a work of art, it helps us understand a little bit more about ourselves, but more importantly, about each other. And I do think whether you see yourself reflected on stage and go, okay, I've just gained some insight, or you get the opportunity to walk in someone else's shoes for a few hours, it is an incredibly powerful tool, and I hope a communal thing that we then bring out into the world.
You're nodding in agreement, Kate Fitzgerald. Do you subscribe to that notion?
Absolutely, I do. And sort of on a personal level, as an actor, I feel like it's pretty rare that you get the opportunity to be in a play with such intense emotional catharsis and also tap dancing. So as I'm doing the show and there are these ups and downs, I'm just so grateful for the moments of levity that I think it's like life. It's amazing to be able to experience the full range of these women's
You
lives.
going to make it 3 for 3, Allison, or no?
Absolutely. And I think in particular, like a theater, watching a piece of live performance, being in the same room as other humans telling this story, there's just something so powerful, tangible, vulnerable, and beautiful about that exchange between the performers and the audience. I think it's a really special way to be telling a story.
You know, when I was at the performance, actually I brought it with me, but I didn't have it in front of me, but I was looking at your resumes, and you've been all over the place. And I just wonder, how does that impact your life? You know, you're in Boston, you're in Chicago, you're in California, you're this, you're that. I mean, it's got to be like you're living a lot of your life out of a suitcase.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Is that hard?
It can be. It can be. You wouldn't do it unless you loved it.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't bother. You have to love it. Nobody that's doing it doesn't love it because there's a lot you got to put up with.
Yeah.
They sent us to Springfield the other day. That's as far as we get to go. And that was about it for us. But go ahead.
Well, you went to Boston Conservatory. Somebody went to Brown.
You went to Brown,
That's
didn't
local.
you?
That's
I did.
local.
Yeah.
So you get some roots here, obviously.
Speaking of travel, you were in San Francisco for years,
was.
and obviously were huge. And then you came here, to be at the Huntington a couple of years ago. What are the differences and similarities in the theater and arts generally? Would you say between the two cities? They're often compared.
I think that it's really interesting because they are similar. I feel, and I know I could live here. I've only been here 3 years. I could live here another 30 and I'd still be an outsider, and I get that. But I think that there is an incredible love for the new, an incredible appetite for the new, and I think there's also a little dose of provincial thinking. And San Francisco has a huge cultural appetite, but less theater. I feel like here in Boston, there in the region, there's a much larger appetite for gathering together in spaces communally. Yeah.
Marjorie mentioned you both have, I'm pointing to Allison and Kate, who have Boston connections because of the conservatory and because of Brown, obviously just down the road in Providence. It's a really impossible question when you're playing in Boston, but be as honest as you can. Can you tell a difference between an audience in a Boston versus a Cleveland versus a wherever, or when you're on the stage, are they all the same?
Gosh. Oh, that's hard because there's so many other factors at play, and I guess I've only now been with 5 Boston audiences because we've only had 4 previews and opening.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there things like the theater comes into play. So what I will say was last night was so lovely just because it was really nice and full, and it was just such a beautiful theater to work in. The space is really well constructed for this medium. So I don't know that I could compare it to working in another theater that wasn't as well constructed. You know what I mean? It's hard to say.
Are you nervous,
so far.
before we get to you in Boston, are you nervous on opening night?
I felt pretty calm, happily. I don't know. Sometimes I am, but I felt okay.
Were you nervous last night, Kate?
I felt, I think excited nerves. The only part sometimes I get nervous when there's a moment in the show where Allison's character is doing sort of almost like a drum roll entrance for a dance number, and that always gets my heart rate going. But I think it's kind of appropriate for the show. But that's the one moment that I get a little nervous.
Kate, at Boston Conservatory, did you major in music, singing, or did you major
theater?
Musical theater.
Yeah.
So it's a combined thing. So you can learn how to act and learn how to sing. I wondered about that.
And
aren't they associated now with Emerson too? Isn't there some? Or is it Berkeley?
No,
It's
Berkeley, not Emerson.
Berkeley
Conservatory.
So you gotta, because almost
I was under Roger Brown when they.
because almost every time we have a new local band on the radio, we do Live Music Friday every Friday,
right?
Obviously, and they're always got a.
That's why we call Live Music Friday, by the way. It's one of the reasons.
Live. Okay.
Can I say one thing about the Boston audience?
What?
Please.
Yeah. This play is really smart.
It is smart.
This audience listens and is so smart. Last night it was nice and full, as Allison said. They didn't miss a beat. They didn't miss a beat. Yeah. I love that about being here in Boston.
Tell us a little bit about Jez Butterworth as a playwright.
Look at if you're not watching on YouTube, you didn't see the eyes in Loretta's head move there.
For me, it's all about the writing.
Yeah.
For me, it's all, you cannot polish a turd. You cannot. You cannot. I would say something else, but we're on air. We're live. His writing. He is so particular. He is so authentic. It's life, and it's highs and it's lows, and it's messy.
Yeah.
And he also is looking at culture. Like, what the interesting thing about this mother is she's living in Blackpool. It's not posh. Everybody thinks, oh, they have dialects, they're English, it's going to sound like The Crown, right? It's like, so no, it's not. And she hitches her dreams for the girls to an American dream through music. And I just think the way he's looking at life and loss, love and loss as well, that juxtaposition, he makes it look easy. It's so specific and so expertly done.
Yeah. You know, speaking of dialect and the English accents, which I totally forgot about because we didn't know you before. I didn't know if you were had an English accents or what you have. Is when you're doing any accent, do you worry that you're going to fall out of it in the middle? Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. I know this is a stupid question, but I'm not an actor.
That's not a stupid question at all.
Thank you so much,
That's
Loretta.
an amazing question.
Okay, so what's the answer to that, Allison?
No. By then,
I was sure you were British. I hadn't read your resume yet.
Well, thanks.
No, I really was.
Actually, I am. I'm totally joking right now. Very good. No, it's and that was, of course, whatever. That wasn't quite the accent of the play because it's Northern England, which was a new one for me. So I had to really work on it. You know, I had to put it. If it was just regular British, this was definitely a new one. So it involves extra time studying, and then you have rehearsal, and by the time you're ready.
You've been really honest here, Loretta. Everybody has, so I'm going to be honest too. We're honest about the liquor. Margaret and I are walking in, and first of all, before he got in trouble, my favorite director was Woody Allen. Now, we don't talk about him anymore, except to say, my attitude is, if you can't say it in 90 minutes, don't say it. We're walking into the play, and I have to, right hand raised, and I go to Marjorie. I said, this damn thing is 3 hours long. Get me out of here. And I can't do 3 hours. It's a work now. We got to get. And when the thing is over, 3 hours later, I look at her and I said, could I have possibly been more wrong? Right. Do you worry that? I mean, you didn't lose a set of eyeballs. We were looking at people there. Do you worry about that when you're putting on something like this?
I think about it all the time. I think, to say, first off, that was our final dress. So the first time we'd run it with all the technical clothes, everything. We took off. We're at 2 hours 43 minutes with the intermission.
Okay, well,
so we took
long,
off 15 plus. Yeah, but what I think about is there was a time where everybody was writing these 70, 80, 90-minute plays, and then we all were having dinner and cocktails at 9:30. It was fantastic. But I really think that we are, as a community, as a society, we are hungry for these bigger, meatier stories. And I'm with you. When it feels like 2.5, 3 hours, that sucks. Like, I'm the audience. I pick things that I want to see and experience. This play, it is this gorgeously it's made as an old-fashioned 3-act play that is anything but. And my hope, there was a pause in the West End and the New York production of that West End show. There was a pause between Acts 2 and 3, and we took it out because we didn't want to let any of that tension dissipate. We wanted to keep building. So I think about it. I think about rhythm all the time and what it is for you to sit there and not want another bottle of, Negronis.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who said we didn't want another bottle? So before you go, since we've been so honest, Kate and Allison, you have to be too. What's she like as a director?
Oh, she's awesome.
Now, come on. How was she?
No, Loretta's amazing. I was so happy that she was the director for this because, she is a mom and a sister and a daughter, and she has a really big appetite for heartfelt stories, and she has really good instincts for the way humans interact and feel, and she's really it's lovely. She's bold, she's brilliant, she's amazing.
Okay,
I'm
Kate,
really happy to work with her.
I second all of that. Also, I think I appreciated your insight as the eldest of 5 sisters.
Yes.
I don't have sisters. I have brothers. So I think just all of the insight that I was able to gain from you about what that experience is like as the oldest sister and all of the responsibility and love and drama and everything that comes with that. Yeah. And yeah, I just loved working with you on it.
Okay, I have one more thing. I was looking through your resume and I saw that you once worked with Sam Shepard. Now,
This is going to be superficial. You don't know Marjorie like I do.
Concentrate, because I mean, to me, he's one of the most divine men ever created.
Best
by
looking
God.
guy that ever lived.
And
We both
I mean, how
agree.
could you
Ever.
even?
Sam
do
had
the
it
work?
going on till the day he died. He had it going on.
Good.
And I got to spend a good deal of time with him.
Really?
The last 5 years, and he was incredible. And I will say, I think in some ways, everything I do is about that canon. I mean, I met Sam after loving the work, and he came up at the Magic, the theater I ran. So the actual, in fact, the set, those stairs are a huge nod to the original Buried Child stairs. Where Sam's great Pulitzer Prize winning play, Buried Child, where those steps sort of lead up to heaven or some other planet, and we wanted them to be epic, like those Buried Child, the original Buried Child stairs. So Sam was just an incredible artist.
And you were able to concentrate while you were speaking with him face
No,
to face.
the first time I met him, I picked him up and we were going to dinner, and I turned up a street that I've been driving on for about 6 years at this point, and it was a one-way street, and I turned going the wrong way. That's no.
As Groucho
I
Marx
always
once
peed
said,
on
"You're only
myself a
going
little
one
bit.
way."
I was like, no, incredible. Yeah, God rest his soul.
Speaking of epic, I know I
that.
speak for Marjorie. So is the Huntington. This, not just this, but the Huntington is the gem of the city. It is spectacular. You guys were great in the hills of California, and you did a pretty great job.
And also,
yourself there,
you come out
Loretta.
of there thinking about your own family, your own interactions,
ever?
your own siblings,
Do you
the own
ever?
losses in your family. It hits home. It hits
We're
home.
thrilled to meet everybody. Thanks.
Yeah.
Good luck with the rest of the run. Hope you come back soon. Thank you all. Really
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much. We've been speaking with the Huntington Artistic Director, Loretta Greco, Allison Jean White, who plays the mother Veronica in the play, as well as one of the older daughters later in the play, and Kate Fitzgerald, who plays that same daughter as a young Joan. And the acting is great, and the music is great, and the set is great. The harmonies are great, like I said a million times. The Hills of California is on production at the Huntington Theater through October 12th. For tickets and info, go to huntingtontheater.org. That's theater, by the way, with an R-E, theater, R-E at the end. huntingtontheater.org. Thank you again for coming in.
Thanks, y'all.
Coming up after this quick break, we're going to open the phone and text lines for our weekly Thursday Am I the A-Hole segment. Where is it appropriate to brush your teeth? At the kitchen sink, at the bathroom sink, at work, at the office. Sorry, ladies, this is what we talk about on Thursday afternoons. You can weigh in on where you brush your teeth next, and who's the a-hole for brushing their teeth where they shouldn't brush their teeth. I'm Marjorie Egan, Houston Browdy. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Feel like the price of that so-called value meal cheeseburger is higher than normal? Well, the team at NPR's daily economics podcast, The Indicator, looked into why, and they spoke to a source with a beefy name to get the scoop.
My name's Jack Berger. I'm a rancher from Saratoga, Wyoming.
I'm Scott Detrow. A cattle farmer breaks down the recent boom in beef prices on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And American Repertory Theater with Passengers, a blend of cirque, music, dance, and superhuman skill. The New York Times writes, extraordinary acrobatics provide gasps of delight. amrep.org. And Moderna, mNextspike, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA by Moderna, is available. Pharmacists can help with any questions about mNextspike.
back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. By the way, speaking of streaming, our fabulous adventure at the Big E was captured by our colleague Lexi Cohan, and you can find it at our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio, and also I think at GBH's Instagram page.
GBH News Instagram page.
Okay, fair enough. We're back at the library tomorrow, Live Music Friday, Joe Kennedy III. Meredith Goldstein, I'm forgetting. And Press Play, of course. Mayor's with us for an hour on the 23rd of the month. Mayor Wu. The Governor Healy, is with us for an hour on September 30th, both at the library. It's time for our weekly Am I the A-Hole segment, where we scrape the bowels of the internet for petty, it's true, for petty disputes, interpersonal kind of issues, and bring them to you to judge. Today's prompt comes via The Guardian. It involves a housemate's squabble over hygiene etiquette. One roommate just can't stop themselves from brushing their teeth in the kitchen sink and drinking directly with her mouth over the faucet.
I know.
Okay, fine. The rest of the house really wants them to stop, saying it's gross, and that's what the bathroom sink is for. So our ask to you is this. Is there anywhere that it's appropriate to brush your teeth other than the bathroom sink? I know I have some colleagues who brush their teeth in the work bathrooms, which I think is totally disgusting. So for you, I have this to say. I hear you and I see you. What's your take? Who's the a-hole? The roommate who's clogging on the kitchen sink with spit and using Colgate toothpaste, the one who brushes her teeth in anything other than the kitchen sink, or the roommate who complains about it? The number is 877-301-8970. I believe in tolerance. I believe when you live with somebody else, you have to give in a little bit because they got to give to you. Having said that, I want to be as unequivocal as I can be. There is no place other than the bathroom sink where you should ever brush your teeth. When I walk into I'm not going to name names.
It's a multi-sink bathroom, you should say.
I will. And by the way, I'm happy to name names if you ask me in a couple of minutes. When I walk into the joint bathroom here and someone's brushing their teeth, I literally feel like I'm going to go all Hannibal Lecter. I mean, it's just...
see you.
Exactly.
We hear you.
Was that my Katie Britt imitation? Who was I imitating? Katie Britt.
Katie Britt, yeah.
She was brutal in the State of the Union response. In any case, so I have a strong opinion. The answer is the a-hole is the person doing the teeth brushing in the kitchen sink and sucking the water out of the faucet. Clearly not the complaining roommate. How about you?
Okay, listen to this. This is from Andy. He says, with everything that's going on in the world, the least we can do is not have bad breath. I keep a toothbrush and floss in my purse, i.e. a backpack that goes everywhere with me. I also have Band-Aids, Neosporin, ibuprofen, nail clippers. I like to be prepared.
No, let me tell you, I have to respond to that person. There's nothing like clipping your nails at work in front of your workmates. 877-301-8970. Anything that is primarily done in the bathroom at home should only be done in the bathroom.
How about if it's a single bathroom at the office?
No.
No, because what, they're going to leave the toothpaste? You're going to leave the toothpaste
disgusting.
in the
sink?
They're
spitting in the sink. It is totally... By the way, do you feel... You're going to defend the toothbrusher?
I would prefer people not brush their teeth next to me in the bathroom, but it doesn't get me all worked up into a fever
pitch. You ever brush your teeth here?
No.
Tell the truth.
I thought you only brush your teeth twice a day. Maybe that's why I have cavities.
Well, some people, by the way, it's not about breath. I mean, with all due respect to that texter, most people brush during the day because they've eaten something and they feel they have to brush their teeth, which, by the way, is probably going to take the enamel off your teeth if you brush too much anyway.
Do you brush your teeth after you've eaten lunch?
No, I do not.
Neither do
brush
I.
my teeth. And you know why? Because I'm not in my house at the bathroom sink. I'm at work. So the issue is not
just... Do you have one of those
work.
electric toothbrushes that have you brush for like 2 minutes? At the end of the day, it goes on and on.
I usually do the one, and then it does that half pause.
Yeah.
And I stop after one.
Do you think it's ever going to stop?
No, but that's not really our topic. You know what I mean? We're not really talking about how long it takes to brush your teeth adequately.
Or you prefer dental flossing or those little
by the way, you can do whatever you want. Or the picks. You do it at home. You don't do it here. So the issue is...
in this, the picks, Jim?
The narrow thing in this MIBA hole...
Q-tips.
Thank you. At The Guardian was... using the kitchen sink at home and then sucking the water out of the faucet. But it can also apply to any setting other than bathroom brushing. What are you laughing
Listen to
about?
this. I brush my teeth in the car, open the door when the car is stopped, and spit out.
No, that really can't. You shouldn't even read that.
And
that
somebody
is
else says the brushing is not the problem. It's the spitting. It's the spitting.
Well, okay.
That's the thing that drives them crazy.
Well, who doesn't spit out the toothpaste? Everybody.
Yeah. You're not supposed to rinse. What these stories is you're not supposed to rinse your mouth after you brush your teeth because that takes away the protective power of the fluoride in the toothpaste.
Wow, that's incredible.
And another person says, my spouse brushes his teeth in the shower. Gross for me, gross for her.
Okay.
His teeth. Her teeth. Oh, it's a girl.
Okay, whoever it is. 877-301-8970. By the way, in case the world ends, or, it's back on. The CNN was off. No, it's on. We needed it on. It's on. 877-301-8970. Who is the a-hole here? The complaining roommate who says, I'm disgusted that the roommate is brushing her teeth in the kitchen sink, or the kitchen sink brusher? Who is it?
The roommate is upset because she says she spits in the kitchen sink where vegetables get washed and cups are rinsed. And she's also very upset about the sucking the water out of the faucet. She leans over, sucks water directly from the faucet, swishes it around in her mouth, and spits. I can hear the whole symphony from my room. Make it stop.
That's exactly my position. Thank you.
That's exactly how this person feels, that they find it really disgusting, and they're not supposed to do something that so annoys the other person. By the way, we should point out that the person who's doing all this spitting and brushing claims they do it because they have ADHD.
I don't care. I'm sorry you brought that up. I don't care.
Well,
I don't care.
Well, a lot of the people seem to think that she's using it as an excuse unfairly.
Donna in Medfield, you were first on Who is the A-hole Thursday. Hello there.
Hi there. So first time, long time. Love you guys.
Thank you. This is a great first call. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, so I have a little bit of an exception. I have to wear braces because I need to have some dental work done.
Oh.
And I got to tell you, there's a whole extra meal in there after you finish. So you can't really go to the bathroom because then you see all these like big chunks of like cheese.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. So you have to go to the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Donna, forget why have you not called us before? You're a brilliant caller in 30 seconds. Where you been?
Don't you have to do that with that Invisalign stuff too? That people have the.
That's a new kind of braces.
New kind of braces where you need.
Go ahead, Donna.
I was wearing those. They weren't working, so I had to go for the full-on metal. And let me tell you, I've you get so much stuff stuck in there. I've even used the back of my earring to try to get food out.
Oh, that's fabulous, Donna. That is so good to hear. Now, Donna, since this is your first call, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to do a segment on Q-tips and your ears. Will you be sure to call back during that segment, too?
Oh, I so will. I have stories.
We knew you.
How do you feel?
Stories.
How do you feel about Q-tips, Don? Just give us a preview. Are you attached to them?
Well, they multitask. You can even use them in the kitchen to clean, like between little blades and stuff in your like kitchen appliances.
Donna, have you ever heard the term eargasm before?
I haven't. A friend of mine is so gross. She's done it in front of me.
Excuse me.
I'm not talking about this.
Donna, you are one of the greats. Call us again soon. Her first call, Donna hit a home run, I should say.
That was very good.
877-301-89.
Witness to way more disgusting things at the office. People clipping their toenails, or the Neanderthal that used to sit next to me and clean his earwax every day. Toothbrushing is tame in comparison. Go for it.
Can we agree all personal hygiene things, maybe other than I know you're going to mention my receding hairline, so I don't brush my hair.
That's not a personal hygiene issue.
No, brushing your hair is a personal hygiene.
Oh, I've done that.
No, I'm just saying, other than brushing your hair, which I prefer you not do because you get hair in the sink thing, you really have to do that wherever you are, I assume, if you have a lot of hair. Short of that, is there any other personal hygiene behavior that you can think of, any, that you should ever do other than your personal bathroom sink at home? Any?
Well, I think a lot of people put makeup on. They fix their lipstick.
I guess that's probably okay, too.
But I think a lot of people do that. That's one of the weird things. Now people have a lot of both gender bathrooms and with multiple sinks. I'm getting used to that. Going in, you're fixing your hair and putting your lipstick on. There's some guy next to you. Takes a little.
Why is that disconcerting?
I don't know, because usually you're in there. Because usually you go out to dinner, and especially when you were younger, and it would be two couples. You go out to dinner, and the girls would go to the bathroom, and they complain about their dates and stuff like that, or their husbands, whatever it was, and you be in there fixing your hair and doing your makeup and stuff. I don't know if you feel it's
really
normal doing your makeup in front of a bunch of guys. So I'm trying to get used to it, Jim.
Maria and Sharon, you would be next. You're on BPR. Hi there.
Hi, first time caller.
Wow.
I listen to you all the time.
You're the best.
And
Thank you.
I did pop into the library a few weeks ago just to see what you look like.
What'd you think?
Oh, pleasantly surprised.
Great.
You look wonderful.
How are Jim's teeth? Did they look okay?
Beautiful.
Thank you. That's what most people say.
I wondered if they were real.
Are they real, Jim?
Maybe they were.
Most of them are. I think most of them are. So what's your take on this am I the a-hole question there, Marie?
All right. Okay, so I have the one place where real disgusting at the airport.
Oh.
When you've been on a flight all night and you're going to meet somebody, you really need to brush your teeth, and it's kind of gross, but I think it's the one place that is accepted.
Well, it is kind of gross, but that I have to say, I don't have a good answer to that. That may be that actually.
Yeah, you don't want to have morning mouth when you're greeting somebody. No, that's a good point. That's a good point,
That's
Marie.
a good, Marie. That was an excellent first call too. Thank you. Make another one soon. We appreciate it.
A lot of people apparently brush their teeth in the shower. So I don't know what you think
I'm not
about
upset.
that.
Are you upset about that? I'm not upset about that. I don't think.
A texter says, I was annoyed at first that our grandson would brush his teeth in the shower. Then I realized I was being dumb and should be thankful he's brushing at all. So there you go. And they also tell you to calm down, Jim.
Do you remember when Matty Siegel got into the New England Broadcasters Hall of Fame? We had him on a couple days before. Remember what we asked him about that we were told about by his former colleague? Well, not his colleague at the time, Billy Costa. When does Matty brush his teeth?
In the car.
Nope.
On the show?
I know. You're not going to like this, but it is what it is when he's peeing.
Make it stop.
There you go. Marjorie doesn't like any bathroom talk.
I didn't know that.
Well, he told us that. We told him that on the air.
I must have blotted it out, Jim.
I'm okay with that. I mean, if that's what you're... No, I'm fine with that, as long as you're careful.
Well, you do lots of things when you're peeing. You're on the phone.
Excuse me?
You're on the phone.
How do you know?
Because I have heard reports.
First of all, let's assume that is true. I can't believe you're saying that on the air.
Well, you just said Matty Siegel brushes his teeth.
Am I Matty Siegel?
No. Hey, I'm keeping your secrets over here, Jim. You didn't tell me to keep that one.
No, the one you're keeping, you were going to keep, okay? Mike and... She knows what I'm talking about. Mike in Providence, you are next on BPR. Hi.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I think we're really, really well. Thank you, Mike.
Beautiful. I have an interesting story to share with you.
Please.
Was in a conference meeting a couple of weeks ago, lunch meeting. Gentleman proceeds to take out tooth floss his teeth mid-meeting after lunch, and then crumples it up and places it on the table.
I was
mortified.
That's disgusting. This was at a work meeting?
This was in a work meeting, jackets and ties on, and this gentleman does this. I couldn't believe it.
Well, there you go. His mother would be mortified, or maybe his mother fell down on the job.
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a gross one. Thank you for that, Mike.
Mike, now a friend of ours, Marjorie, has texted me and says, so with this typically flawless logic, I think he's ridiculing me, people shouldn't go to the bathroom at work.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. I will reserve judgment on that, and by sometime tomorrow, I will get back to anybody who has broached that issue, including this particular person.
I always tell the story about my older sister who went from like this Catholic girls' school with like 15 kids in the class, and she went to my high school, Durfee High School, which is kind of a rough and tumble sort of place. She didn't go to the bathroom for the entire time she was in high school for 3 years.
Look at you.
She was so freaked out by the women's room in there, what went on in there.
Okay, so what we're talking about, if you just tuned in, is The Guardian tells the story of a couple of roommates, one of whom not only brushes her teeth repeatedly in the kitchen sink, but also, the word suck is the right word, sucks the water out of the faucet directly, puts her mouth on the faucet and drinks water out of the faucet.
And the roommate
is
says,
disgusted.
why doesn't she use a cup? Why doesn't she just get a cup?
Well, why doesn't she use a cup?
Well, that's a good question. She's ADHD, Jim.
Well, it's not. No, she doesn't say that's the reason. She says a lot of no, but she says a lot of people do that. Okay. So who is the a-hole? The complaining roommate or the roommate who engages in this unconscionable, in my estimation, behavior?
Okay. Here's Aisha. She says, I'm confused. The person brushing their teeth at the work sink is using a sink, and Jim said it's in a bathroom. So where should workers brush? Believe me, some people should brush their teeth.
Well, the answer is nowhere. I'm sorry. You cannot. I'm serious. You don't brush your teeth at work. That's all it is. Go home. Work a half day. Go to your house.
Maybe they should go in the stall and then just spit in the toilet, Jim.
If they have to do that, they do that. That's disgusting. Let me just say that. Can you agree with me on this one thing? You should just not brush your teeth at work. I mean, period.
Well, I would say
normal people don't brush their teeth at work.
If you have a multi-sink deal in the bathroom, as we do, we have 3 sinks. And you're next to somebody, you probably shouldn't brush your teeth.
So wait a second. It's okay in a single bathroom like we also have here to spit in the sink because I wouldn't know that they spit in the sink?
As long as you clean up and don't leave any residue in there, like the toothpaste or all over the place. If you clean up afterwards, you should clean up afterwards. Take a little paper towel, you just go over the
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that. Now, Nancy in Rhode Island asked a really zen kind of question. I think you're the right person to answer.
Yeah.
When I lived in New York City, and I can relate to this, I had a lot of small apartments there. My bathroom sink was the kitchen sink. What then, Jim?
Yeah, that's right, Jim.
That is a tough one.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about this.
We're not talking about that. Kim from Northborough. What do you think, Kim?
Hello, Kim.
Hi, I have a question for you both.
Sure.
What's dirtier, your hands or your mouth?
I would say it's your hands, but I don't know. I'm just guessing.
It is your hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is your hands. It's absolutely your hands. So with that logic, nobody should be touching that kitchen faucet either. And nobody should be washing their disgusting hands in your kitchen sink.
I'm for that. I'm for not washing your hands in the kitchen sink either. If you had asked me that, I would have said, "Don't wash your disgusting hands in the kitchen sink."
Yeah, well, there's a lot of disgusting
wash them in the
things going on.
bathroom.
Remember all the stories about if your toothbrush is too close to the toilet.
Kim, thanks.
It's getting germs from the toilet.
Well, because all the stuff,
and the electric blowers,
very dangerous.
Very dangerous. Don't use them.
dangerous.
Don't use them. They're very bad. Go for the paper towels, or just come out with your hands all wet.
Here is a criticism of us, a respectful criticism. Ama on YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't know how Jim and Marjorie can actually do these shows. And by the way, we don't know how we do these shows. This topic is so gross. It's just, whoops. Oh, it disappeared. Ama, I'm sorry. It disappeared. My apologies. Here is an anonymous texter says, I have an office employee who brushes teeth, spits in his trash barrel. I mean, by the way, I didn't text that. Someone else did. Here's Jody in Upton. My boss used my boss used to clip his nails sitting next to me at work. I got so grossed out, I took his clippers when he was gone and threw them in the ocean. Sorry, ocean, John says. It was very satisfying to watch them look high and watch him look high and dry the next time he went to clip his nails. Here's it's back from YouTube. The topic is so gross, it's just one more thing, showing how weird our human race can be. On that, Ama, we tend to agree with you. What do you think?
I had a boss for a while who'd come over to talk to you at your desk, and he'd stand over your desk and he'd comb his hair, and he had really bad dandruff.
Oh,
so all the
what are you
dandruff
doing?
would fall down on your desk or your shoulders or sometimes on your head.
By the way, that is 10 times more disgusting than anything I've ever said on the air. And
I've been re-traumatized.
So we have a new intern who's only been here 2 days from the journalism school at BU. Brian McGore, you listening? Our new intern asked the whole control room, are we okay? No one responded. So clearly we are not okay. That's the boss, Jamie.
This is our
that
low-rent
conversation.
Thursday afternoon. My favorite.
And your favorite
my
segment.
favorite segment. So there you have it. There it is.
Here is a song from Family Guy. We'll get back to your calls in a second. That apparently captures how I feel.
Hell do you brush your teeth at work? The bathroom's full of poop and pee, and now you rub that on your teeth like you're gonna kiss someone.
At 3 was the end of the song.
Oh,
That's
God.
a lovely ballad, actually. That's
very
really
attractive.
quite nice.
Craig in Jamaica Plain, what do you think about this?
Hey, Craig.
Hi, guys. Real simple. If you're can you hear me?
Yeah. No, forget the echo. It's
calling
screwed
from the
up.
radio. Okay, let's see if I can turn that down.
That'd be a good idea.
Okay, all right.
I can't hear you.
You can brush your teeth while you turn the
done.
radio down. Go ahead.
It's real simple. When you're by yourself, you can brush your teeth anywhere, including the toilet, for all I care. But if you got a roommate, you got to make a deal there. No brushing your teeth in the sink and Is there anything else in the sink?
That's right.
Put it above your hand.
That was like a
That's right.
Solomonic
It was
kind of
Solomonic.
call.
Why didn't we think of that? You have to make these compromises when you're living with someone, whether it's a spouse or it's a roommate or a bunch of other kids in the family. You got to make these sacrifices.
What's the name of the comedian in Wedding? Is it Wedding Crashers? Who?
Owen.
No, the woman who's lost a lot of weight.
Jennifer Coolidge.
Melissa McCarthy.
Oh.
Bridesmaids. I'm sorry, I always mix up the movie. Do you remember what she does in the kitchen sink?
No.
You don't?
I don't. Oh,
okay.
I think I do.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
that was bad.
It was a movie. I'm allowed to mention that.
Okay.
Let's go to Chris in Cambridge. What's your take on this, Chris? Hello there. Chris.
Listen to this while I'm waiting for Chris.
He's brushing his teeth, as Zoe just
this is from
suggested.
Mark in
Chris, when you're
Cambridge.
done brushing, call us back.
For those that work and brush after every meal, where do you want them to brush, Jim? At Google, the bathrooms are stocked with toothbrushes, mouthwash, toothpaste, and dental floss.
I'm sorry. I mean, you don't, by the way, I can tell. I assume regular listeners of the show know when Marjorie's disagreeing just to make me aggravated. You don't like to see, I don't want anybody brushing their teeth at lunch. That's it, period. Yeah. If it turns out they're home, they can brush their teeth. If they work in an office, you and I actually come to work every day. You aware of that? A lot of people don't.
That's right.
And if you come to work every day, which is your choice in our case, we don't have to, I guess we could do this from home, or we used to, or something like that. You don't brush your teeth, period. There's nothing to talk about.
I
don't brush your teeth.
There are a lot of things that get you all worked up.
You hear what I said? Don't brush your teeth at work.
Don't brush your teeth. And it's interesting because some of the things that get you so worked up are things that you might do.
Not me. I do not. By the way, I'm not a hypocrite when it comes to. So I'm a hypocrite when it comes to certain things. I still buy at Amazon from time to time, but that is the extent of my hypocrisy. 877-301-8970 is the number.
Here's Jeanette from Weymouth. Here's something worse: flossing your teeth in the living room and letting the food particles pop out all over the place.
I can't believe you're reading. This is so unlike you. You hate this kind of stuff on the radio. You've made this 10 times grosser than the original conversation was.
Well, I mean, this is what we're getting. These are the text messages we're getting.
Can I tell you the truth?
We're
Since you're being
gross
honest,
messages.
I have flossed in the car. Do you ever floss in the car?
I know you floss in the car. You know how I know that?
You drove by me?
No, because you've asked me about a million times if I'm driving
floss,
somewhere with you, if I have any floss.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And if I had the floss, I presume you would have flossed in the car right next to me, and the food would have popped out at me.
No, I'm an anti-pop person, actually. I'm a no-pop flosser. I always have been, always will be. Okay, please.
We have an awful lot of texters who have a tragic situation with people clipping their toenails. I mean, this is about the fifth one we've had from somebody. This person says, I'm still haunted by this 25 years later. My ninth grade English teacher, every Friday during our vocabulary quiz. Imagine that. No wonder you couldn't get any of the words right.
In all seriousness, the notion that anybody would clip their toenails in front of somebody who is not like their partner or their kid or something, is there something wrong with that person?
And the toenails go flying all around the room.
How do you feel about people brushing their teeth, Jared Bowen, anywhere except their own bathroom sink at home?
I hate when the toenails go flying into your mouth. Isn't that the worst?
This is a huge mistake for us. Okay.
He's got that disease where the fossa,
misophonia,
whatever you call it, misophonia. Yeah, you probably can't stand it.
Yeah.
That would be if they ate their toenails.
I hope you're watching.
Not talking about this.
What's going on here? This is so unprofessional. Oh, Jared's having a Marjorie breakdown.
This whole thing is revolting.
It is revolting. It was Jim's idea.
We did have somebody upstairs in the newsroom who used to clip. I don't think it was toenails, but
in the newsroom.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
And I would hear over the cubicle the clip, clip, clip. It was disgusting.
You know what I did yesterday? I was biting my nail when you were next to me. Did you notice that?
I did not notice.
Oh, thank goodness.
In the library, it's really loud.
I hate the sound. It's really
I was biting because I had a hangnail.
We see you.
Exactly.
We hear you.
Jim. Oh, someone is pointing out who does that in the newsroom.
No.
We're not going to say.
Oh, show me.
Yeah.
A colleague of ours apparently does in the newsroom. By the way, he will not be doing that anymore. Let's leave it there.
All right. What's on your show? It's
by the
more
way,
edified than this,
some
I'm
people
sure.
think that the reason Jamie was in the bathroom for those 4 hours because he was brushing his teeth and they didn't want anybody to see. So there you go. I know we're looking
People
here.
people use toothpicks in public all the time.
Toothpicks are they're not given out, they're not as available in restaurants as they used to be, which is really unfortunate.
It's an American tragedy, Jim.
The toothpick it can be kind of a sexy thing, though. Like all the people in the Westerns chewing on the toothpick.
Not as sexy as a Q-tip.
See, you just brought it right back. Exactly.
No, there's nothing sexy about looking at someone with a Q-tip.
No.
You might find...
I'm talking about your own yourself.
Jim finds them very sexy.
Self-satisfying. Let's put it that way. Let's leave it.
Q-tips.
Okay, we should really... this is like cancelable radio.
I fell right into the trap.
Oh, what are you doing?
Our new intern is very upset, Jim.
So we're going to be talking, I can't believe it, we're going from this to this.
What is it?
To the man who's been playing Henry David Thoreau for 26 years. Is just stepping down, but he was the man that you would encounter at Walden Pond. We're going to be talking about the Great Glass Pumpkin Patch at MIT, from the Glass Blowing Lab, where they fill the front lawn, the lawn at MIT with glass pumpkins.
Oh my God,
as a
that's
fundraiser.
great.
I know, it's fabulous. And then Chris Wagner, the Boston Globe's new TV critic and pop culture critic, is going to be here giving us all his recommendations about what to watch this month.
Oh, I can't
Fantastic.
Wait to hear that.
Is the glass pumpkin thing on display now?
Not yet. It's coming up at the end of the month.
You have to start talking the show.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hey, Jared, good luck.
Thank you very much.
We'll be listening. Bye.
Okay, sorry about chewing my nail there. Keep up with us 24/7 Boy Ever podcast. Check out our TikTok page. We have our little visit to the Big E is on there now. It's the TikTok page of Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we're going to be back at the Boston Public Library. Press play with Sue O'Connell, Ron Mitchell, Joe Kennedy III. Live Music Friday. Songwriter Evan Greer. Boston Globe's Love Letters columnist Meredith Goldstein. Thank you to our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Additional support from Mira Donaldson. Patrick Lally ran our YouTube stream today. Thank him. Our engineer, John the Claw Parker, and our executive producer, Jane Bologna. The Culture Show, starring Jared Bowen, starts immediately after us right here on 89.7 GBH. Jim has left early to go brush his teeth, but I don't want to tell anybody.
I would never do it. By the way, I was as disgusting by Margot's performance in that segment as you were, but what are you going to do? I'm Jim Browdy.
I'm Marjorie.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
We see you. We hear you.
Jim.
We stand by you.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? Arts and culture on The Culture Show. Next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Salem's only collection of authentic objects from the 1692 Salem witch trials. Now on view. For tickets, you can visit PEM.org. Looking for a newsletter that can match your curiosity? Well, sign up for The Deep Dive at gbh.org/deep dive and join us every Tuesday as we go in-depth on one timely topic.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org.